across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Well, you know, what has started to come to mean. For those who listen to this slot over the last few weeks, it means it's going to be full throttled. Weird Hour with Paul Cox. He's going to be here in the studio, and you know what happens when Paul and I are left up to our own devices for an hour. It gets weird, and I'm telling you, I actually cannot wait. Shh, don't tell him, but I've actually made him a present that I'm going to give to him when he's here later. It's very cool. You will see. Anyway, before that, we've got a lot of serious stuff to do because there's been plenty going on in politics, hasn't there? It's been rather a pantomime, politically speaking. There's been, well, I don't know about you, but I certainly had a lot of fallout from the interview I did with Charlie Downs yesterday. There's a whole load of noise around this reform advance, whatever they are, all the everything parties. Restore, that's it. Restore and advance versus reform. So we are going to be continuing that conversation because I know that you guys out there are wanting to ask questions and give your opinions on it. I'm guessing the likelihood is many of you will be looking at all of those options and trying to weigh up what you think is the most politically expedient, the most authentic. So we're going to continue with that. Like I was saying to Kev, it is time to follow the money over Chagos. I did a deep dive report on my Substack into the lawyers, their affiliations, who might be getting what, and it's not good. And we really do need to be looking at the legal cartel surrounding our Prime Minister. I mean, blimmin' heck, they were sort of delving through the donors who paid for Boris Johnson's gold wallpaper that didn't exist. Do we not deserve to know what this shady cabal is around our Prime Minister, who are unelected, who seem to have fairly radical ideologies and seem to all work for the same barristers' chambers that have spent a lot of the past advocating for clients who are going against the UK government? Is that not a cause for concern? I think it is. So we're also going to be discussing that. So as you can see, we've got loads coming up. So plenty to sink our teeth into. So don't you go anywhere. Instead, I think it would be remiss if you didn't fuel yourself for the journey. Consider this your opportunity to go to the petrol pump and pour yourself, that's right, a three-fingered gin and tonic, or whatever your poison may be. And I want you stimulated and salivated and ready to share your thoughts, because I think there's going to be a lot out there. So 03444991000 is the number to send me a WhatsApp message or indeed leave me a voice note on WhatsApp. You can use that number to give me a call. You can phone at any time. The wonderful Matt will be there to take down your details, register your interest, and then phone you back and patch you through to the studio when the time is on. 8722 is the number if you'd rather send me a text message. You have to write the word talk before you write your message if you're going to do SMS. Okay, housekeeping done. Pre-flight checks all finished. Let's put this plane into full throttle and lift off. Right. First up in the skies is Stephen Barrett, the brilliant lawyer and writer. How are you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing very well. I'm enjoying half term with my child.
Oh.
I think I'm quite public as a single dad, and it's a joy. It's a pleasure.
Well, that's really that's beautiful and very nice to hear. It's always nice when you hear men talking so warmly and affectionately about their children and doing good fathering. So well done to you. Talking about good fathering, I always try and do a segue. Nigel Farage has been laying a little brood of shadow cabinet, as he calls them. I mean, they're not the official opposition, so they don't get to go around and shadow the government. But it sort of moved reform on from being Nigel Farage with some MPs, and then Nigel Farage with MPs and notable faces who defected, and then Nigel Farage with MPs and notable faces who defected who are starting to talk a bit more about policy. So here we go. We've now got people in positions who are going to have portfolios. What did you make of the press conference today, Stephen?
I thought that the most, for me, the most telling moment was when Nigel said that he wasn't going to be around forever. Because historically, there are two gentlemen I deeply respect, and that's the Roman Republican leader called Sulla, who people probably won't remember, and the first American president, George Washington. Both of them could have been dictators for life. They could have been absolute monsters and tyrants, and both of them decided to retire. And it looks to me that Nigel is never going to be a dictator for life. I think we should, I'm a member of Reform, so I have a political interest in his success, and I look forward to his success. But he's clearly not going to be a dictator forever. He's clearly looking to the next generation. He's clearly looking to create something far bigger than a one-man band, and that is what the country needs, if we're absolutely honest. So personally, for me, I loved that bit. It was the bit that Nigel could, because he is such a huge personality on his own. He's achieved so much as one man. He has every right to that respect. But to turn away from that, as Sulla and as George Washington did, and say, no, I'm going to retire, I'm going to live amongst my fellow men as equals, is a hugely important thing to me, and that's what I took from Nigel today.
I get the impression as well, I mean, he said it himself, this is about Reform taking politics seriously, saying we are going to potentially form the next government, so you need to be cognizant of what that is going to look like. We are going to put in place political experience. We're going to give people big jobs, and now you're going to start hearing a bit more about our policies, and people are going to have to command their particular portfolio in the same way that they would have to command a department if they become a minister. Perhaps interestingly, out of the big offices of state, we've had Home Secretary now, Zia Youssef, who isn't elected, who is very new to politics. So I want to ask your opinion on that particular appointment. Robert Jenrick as Chancellor, when we're sort of more familiar with Robert Jenrick talking about immigration. Suella Braverman in education, when perhaps we're more familiar with her also talking about immigration, and of course having been Home Secretary. And then Richard Tice doing business and energy, which it's like, well, is that your consolation prize because you're not Chancellor? I don't know. But no mention of a Foreign Secretary. So where do you want to begin with that particular smorgasbord? Shall we talk first of all about Zia Youssef as Shadow Home Secretary? What's your take?
I think that's interesting, but the Constitution is really quite a flexible thing. There have been people today who have been trying to attack Reform because they're like, you're not the official shadow cabinet, and actually that's to misunderstand our Constitution. Our Constitution is really quite forgiving. It's quite wide. It's quite elastic. It's not brittle. I was talking to my dad about this at the weekend. This is probably, I mean, we both promised each other that we would research what happened when the Labour Party was created in the early 20th century. But this is the first time, certainly in our lifetime, that the official opposition is effectively not the party with the second largest amount of MPs. It isn't. And I think we all need to recognise that. So having people in the cabinet who aren't MPs, I think, is perfectly acceptable. Lords' appointments are clearly acceptable. I mean, we had David Cameron in Foreign Office.
And Lord Hermer, who we're going to be talking about later, of course.
Evil Penfold, of course. But we have a lot of flexibility in our system for a reason, because we ultimately, we don't want to crash things. We don't want to just everything to just grind to a halt and end up in litigation all the time. We get through. That's what we as the British do. And I think having Zia in position as a non-MP is perfectly constitutionally acceptable. I would also say that I think it's quite wise to not try and fill every role. If you try and fill every role with 8 MPs and somebody no one's heard of, it all starts to look a bit Edstone. Do you remember the Edstone?
Oh, who can forget the Edstone?
Well,
the
for listeners who don't
of
remember, it was 8. They couldn't even get 10 pledges. They just sort of tailed off. They got 8 pledges, and it was absolutely pathetic. I mean, the guy who did the Edstone is in government now, which is, as far as I'm concerned, explains the current government. But no, I think it was wise. I think it's interesting. I would never, because I don't consider myself a politician. I don't consider myself politically gifted, and really that's not my job. My job should be just to explain law to people. I actually think it's a bit unfortunate that I have to declare where my personal politics lie, and I would forgive anybody who disagrees with me instantly. But Nigel Farage is a wily old fox, and anybody who thinks that they're better at politics than Nigel is a loon.
Let's talk about some of the criticism that has been levelled against reform. There are those, I mean, I've been bombarded by a lot of people today, but there are those who say, listen, Zia Youssef was the man who called the cops on Rupert Lowe when there was the fallout of whatever happened behind the scenes in reform. And the cops turned around, you know, after raiding his house at whatever early hour of the morning it was and going through his gun collection, turning around going, well, look, nothing's been substantiated about, you know, claims you made that someone said something 3 months ago. And so people are saying, listen, you know, if you've got someone trigger happy calling the old cop shop, which the police have deemed unnecessary, is that the person you then want to be in charge of policing? Because that is what the Home Office entails.
Well, I think we really need to look at questions like that. And I think we do all need to pause and reflect. What I would say as a Christian is that there has to be capacity for forgiveness. So I think if we make mistakes, we can't be utterly brittle. We can't just damn people forever. But I felt as though Nigel, because I actually watched, I don't watch half as much political commentary as people think, but I watched the speech today, probably because of half term. But he came quite close, I think, to admitting that mistake, you know, it was not perfect. It's not been great. What I personally have lived through, Alex, and I may make my own video on this later today or even tomorrow, is I lived through 24 hours of absolute racist hate from this new organisation.
Oh, you and me both, Mr. Barrett.
It's been unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Not since I've been piled on by the far left have I experienced this. It's been earth-shatteringly odd, and I don't believe it's truly what Mr. Lowe is about, because we've been Twitter mutuals for years. I think he's a decent man. And Nigel said he's a decent man, but something has gone wrong in our society, and we need to fix it and maybe stop worrying about the perfect and just try and be as good as we can be.
I mean, look, we will discuss this no doubt later on in the show. I've just been in the middle of writing an article about it again for my beloved Substack. And my sort of personal comment on that is, it seems to me the breakaway entities from what was the Brexit Party think that, or have assessed or determined that Nigel Farage is not going far enough or fast enough. And so they're trying to out Farage. Which sort of, you know, might lead some to say, well, where does that end? Where's the ideological headroom, okay? What areas that are so far untouched and uncharted territory in UK politics are they going to career into? And is it sensible? I've sort of equated it to a bit like we're in a big old mess, an unprecedented political mess in the United Kingdom. Everybody knows that nobody asked for mass immigration or mad communism to be imposed upon Britain with irreparable, far-reaching damage. And it feels like the 11th hour. We know that. But my argument would be, when a loved one is being wheeled on a gurney into the emergency operating theatre, you don't want the backroom barber surgeon with a hacksaw. You want the best, most experienced and careful consultant. And I just kind of feel, as an analogy, that might be where we are right now. Let's talk.
Nigel was quite good on that today. He admitted he had no government experience.
Yeah.
For a man who's often accused of being a demagogue, he literally stood there and said, you know, I've never been in government. I don't really know how it works. Yeah. And admitted that he needed Suella and Rob in particular. And that to me was very, very touching.
It's very, to be honest, it's something that echoes what other European populist leaders who have managed to break through have done themselves. I remember the Finns party doing this in Finland. Geert Wilders in the Netherlands basically said, you know, we've not been in Parliament before, so we're going to give some of those high offices of state to those people who know how it works dealing with the civil service and running departments. Fair enough. That's, I suppose, an understandable position to take. At least that is how Farage has outlined it. The big gaping hole, though, if you're going to announce your big offices of state, the one that you would expect to have come out first, or as part of the first wave of such appointments, would be the Foreign Secretary. We live in extremely febrile geopolitical times when, certainly when I look at the current cabinet, when I look at the previous cabinet, when I look at people who might form a future cabinet on the Labour side of government, the first thing I think of is this person going to be taken seriously, going to one of the big summits? Are they going to be respected on the world stage? Is Vladimir Putin going to look at them as Foreign Secretary, rub his paws together with glee and salivate at the prospect of running rings around them? Because these are, we've got to get this right when it comes to where we position ourselves on the Middle East. We've got to get this right when it comes to the strategic importance of NATO. We've got to get this right when it comes to maintaining the special relationship. We've got to get this right when it comes down to facing adversaries in Russia. We've got to get this right when it comes to deterring Iran from trying to blow the West up to smithereens. This is not, at the moment, a job for a novice or an enthusiast or a hobbyist. We need somebody with real clout. And the fact that Nigel has not given that position to anybody makes me think that he's looked around and thought, nobody fits that bill.
There's only 8 of them now, and I don't mean to denigrate or be rude to any of the Super 8. That they've all got fantastic talents. That doesn't necessarily mean they fit. This is the Edstone point. You don't just put them in a role just for the sake of having them in a role. I think it's interesting where you stand on what the most important non-appointed job is, because personally, as a lawyer, I am worried, and a constitutionalist, I'm worried about the fact that there's no Lord Chancellor yet. But I hope that Nigel Farage will deal with that via the House of Lords. And I think we probably...
Well, we've got to create the Lord Chancellor first, of course, because that means getting rid of the Supreme Court, doesn't it? And recreating, basically.
Blair failed. He was desperate to destroy it, and he failed. So he couldn't actually destroy the role. So it's still there. But I think we probably want to reform it. We probably want to bring it back.
It is a eunuch of a Lord Chancellor, I'm afraid. It's little Lord Fauntleroy Chancellor.
Yes, it's Richard III and Shakespeare. The Lord Chancellor is a queen in jest. It's just a joke. This is nonsense. It's not currently the powerful position it once was. But I'd like to see that restored. I think everybody in the country wants to see a strong defence secretary. And I think that's a very important move because, to quote Churchill, Britain must arm. And I think we're at this point now. And Churchill was very, very clear. If we had taken rearmament seriously in the early 1930s, it was Churchill's position after the war that we would have avoided the war.
Right.
So if we want to be safe, and there's a Latin maxim, and if only I had gone to expensive private school, I'd probably be able to tell it to you, Alex. But it's the man who wants peace must prepare for war. If you want peace, prepare for war. And we are clearly as far as I'm concerned, we're clearly in that stage. So I'd like to see that. But this is a question of reform evolving.
For the United Kingdom, regardless of which party ends up in government, we need, in my opinion, somebody who understands that geopolitics is the rich seam that runs through every department, quite frankly, where we procure our pharmaceuticals, how we manage trade, how we deal with our own homegrown industries, our energy policy, rather than sabotaging our own ability to be self-reliant on fossil fuels. I think all of these point towards a larger geopolitical picture. And I think we need someone who's extremely well versed in that role. Whoever may form the next government. OK, let's take a short break now, Mr. Barrett. Let's do a few messages before the break so I can titillate you and tantalise you into sharing your thoughts. Craig in Birmingham says, evening, Alex. Restore Britain are not even a registered UK political party. They're just a bunch of Rupert groupies, like an 80s soft rock group. If only it was like an 80s soft rock group, standing there with flowing white shirts aboard a yacht. But it's less of the white shirts, isn't it? Talk. Alex, why did I say the word talk? Sorry, Pavlov's dog moment. Of course, it's follow the money. We're talking about the Chagos Islands and whether any of the lawyers who have been part of this, who are good friends with Mr. Starmer, might be making a significant pay packet as a result of this dodgy deal. It always is follow the money. Money, politics and greed are intertwined, unfortunately. This Chagos deal could only be about the money because the deal was just bonkers, says David in Worcestershire. Oh, here we go. This is in line with some of the lovely messages that I've been receiving lately. More to the point, why Reform putting up yet another foreign ancestry person in charge of immigration? Well, you'd have to ask Reform that. But ancestry... Yeah. It makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, the word ancestry. My ancestors, by the way, multiple buried in a little village called King Stanley near Stroud in Gloucestershire. It goes back to 1530, the amount of family members all in that churchyard. As blimmin' West Country as they get. But originally, my lot came over during the Norman Conquest. We've traced it all the way back to the Normans. So, of course, originally were the Norsemen, the Vikings. What about your ancestry? Are you pure British blood? What does that even mean? Alex, Nigel is getting ready for government. I think Suella is fantastic and all the MPs who crossed the floor. I did think Richard would be Chancellor, but Deputy PM is a great position, says Margaret in Birmingham. I hope Nigel is keeping the Foreign Secretary job. For me! You'd be perfect! Really? I'm not sure I could sit around that big white table opposite Putin and make an impact, although maybe a bit more than Macron. I've probably got 2 inches on him at least. Hi, Alex. Reform did a decent job today because Rome was never built in a day, says Kev in Southampton. Right, there we go. Keep your thoughts coming in. 0344 499 1000 is the number to send me a message on WhatsApp or leave me a voice note on WhatsApp, or indeed to call if you want to chat. 8722 is the number to send me a text message. Write the word talk before you text. Top up, won't you? And after that, come back.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Barrett. Come back, would you? We've got many a thing to discuss. OK, let's talk about the election U-turn. I think, you know, most of us who are Democrats did a little fist pump of delight when we saw the Labour Party and Mr Steve Reid, who apparently was the person behind the legislation to postpone elections, have their comeuppance at the hands of the legal challenge by Reform UK and the campaign by The Telegraph. Although everyone seems to have claimed to have done it. You know, we had Kemi Badenoch go, "We fought for this." That's right, David going, "We fought tooth and nail for these elections." I'm like, no, all of your councils
Yeah,
that
we
you
fought
control.
tooth and nail for the elections that we asked them to cancel.
I know, right?
I'm fed up of that.
I know,
That
it's
is
insane. It's like, it's
stop it.
amazing how brazen these people are being. But the thing is this, we now have local elections in Norfolk, Suffolk, Blackburn, Lincoln, Thurrock and 24 more parts of England on the 7th of May. And some of the councils are going, well, that's all very well, but now we've got to blimmin' organise all of this and it's a bit late in the day.
Yeah, well, democracy is not an inconvenience, Alex. Democracy is how we run the entire system. So I'm terribly sorry if it's inconvenient for you. It reminds me of a Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister episode where Sir Humphrey was terribly happy with this hospital because it was perfect. It was working perfectly. All the bureaucracy was great, but it had no patients. At the end of the day, we are a country and we run ourselves the way we run ourselves with democracy. We had, because I see I see people not. Do you know what? I'm not going to say that. I see people getting scared online, and they worry that Starmer will use a war to cancel an election. Well, he can't. We literally had a general election while World War II was still going on. Okay, we can do stuff. We can have elections, and elections are the most important thing we have. I don't care if they're expensive. I don't care if they're inconvenient for bureaucrats. I don't give two hoots. Elections matter because they are about empowering everyone, every single listener and viewer to this, who is my equal. If you're a voter, you are my equal. We are equals, and it is about empowering us all. And they are the most important thing to happen. And this disgraceful Steve Reid's going to have to resign, but Starmer will declare full confidence in him within half an hour, and no doubt he'll be under the bus before bedtime. But this was always disgraceful, and I will not once Steve Reid is gone, because he must go. I mean, Starmer to my mind should go, but Steve Reid must go. Once he's gone, Kemi Badenoch and Ed Davey, who both had councils involved in cancelling elections, need to answer for it. And what's going on, and I've not seen anything, to be fair to the Lib Dems, I haven't actually seen anything from them trying to do any shenanigans, but I have seen Tory party people trying to pretend that they were against this all along.
I know.
That is just dishonest.
Oh, yeah, they're shouting and screaming about it. Deafened me at times. But, you know, it is interesting because I do wonder if, because some of those parties who run councils took the liberty of saying, no, we'll just postpone elections, whereas Reform always had it as part of their intent to see these elections go ahead. If that now means Reform are far more prepared than the other parties. I mean, I think it benefits Reform. They're the only people who really are set to gain from this. I'd imagine the other parties are looking quite nervously at how that might unfold. And these things tend to act as an accelerant as well. They tend to boost turnout in other areas and boost support. And so I think quite canny politically by Reform. Talking about elections and democracy, I want to go off on a bit of a tangent, if you don't mind, which is I've been trying to enumerate all the different tactics that the establishment, so to speak, are going to use to try and prevent there being a Reform government. And actually, I started writing my list about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and already many of them are coming to pass. So, for instance, we have seen the plebiscite given to 16-year-olds. At the same time, of course, they're going to take social media off 16-year-olds. So instead of, looking at all the posts that Farage is the GOAT or whatever on TikTok, they're instead just going to be brainwashed by their teachers' union leftist, classroom attendants. They potentially, I would imagine, going to extend the plebiscite to people who live here, who aren't born here and don't necessarily have citizenship. That would be an obvious move if I were Labour, to say, well, they live in Britain, of course they should be able to vote. I'd imagine that could be a tactic. If it gets even darker, the super left-wing coalition, we've already heard murmurs of this. If need be, there'll be a stop reform electoral pact. Again, we've seen that take place across Europe. Something else we've seen take place in Europe, which of course hasn't really entered the circulation of news over here. What happened in Romania, I think, is very interesting as a way that they might try and destroy reform, because seemingly what happened is the EU turned around and said the election of Georgescu, Călin Georgescu, who was the sort of entryist populist candidate, was void, because there had been a huge amount of boosting of his profile on TikTok, enough for it to have swayed the vote, and it was all about Russia. Therefore, because Putin made him win, the election had to be nullified, and indeed it was. Of course, what we've learned with the testimonies to Congress in America is when TikTok has been subpoenaed with the evidence, it shows that there weren't Russian bots. It wasn't Russia at all. It was actually a domestic Romanian party boosting Georgescu. And I wonder if something similar could happen here, a sort of deliberate messing about with bots and so forth, and then going, oh, well, look, you know, all this reform support is actually due to foreign election interference.
Well, this is where I have been very upset that for a number of years, British citizens and voters have been made to feel like children who are controlled by some sort of superior being, because we aren't. There is no superior being, and if it's pretending it's superior to you, it's almost certainly incompetent. We are adults, and we play with live ammo in a real world. And I think that the British need to wake up. The most important constitutional feature, by the way, is the people who don't normally vote. So when things go from election to election, and maybe 40% of the electorate don't bother voting because, I mean, they're too busy, or they've had a really hard day, or that they're just not that animated. People get angry about this. And I'm like, no, that's a real constitutional release valve. Because come the day, come the time when if shenanigans do happen, if wrongness does happen, it will be those people who do not normally vote who will save us all and who will come out. They won't be able to manipulate the numbers if they don't understand how big the numbers are.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to those normal non-voting people coming out. I'm hoping that will happen in this by-election in Gorton. You know, I've declared my interest, but I'm hoping that's what will happen. Safe seats are an abomination, and I don't care which party you support. I don't want reform to ever have safe seats. Safe seats just mean a political party is going to take you for granted. What a waste of time. You deserve proper representation. You are a grown-up. You are a voter.
Okay, but okay, let me just sort of put that back to you, though. We were talking earlier about there not being the obvious pick as foreign minister. Say the greatest candidate on earth suddenly, you know, enters the reform fold. I mean, my pick would be Sir Richard Dearlove. I love that man. I just think Sir Richard Dearlove is an oracle, and he should just be running everything. But say Sir Richard Dearlove went to Mr Farage and said, I want to offer my services. I know how the world works. I think I'd make a great foreign minister. And Nigel said, I'll snatch your hand off for that. And Sir Richard Dearlove is like, well, you know, I live in rural Devon, where everything is Lib Dem, Lib Dem, Lib Dem. Oh, I was born and bred in rural Devon. I live in rural Devon. And then Nigel thinks, we need this man somewhere where his position is not going to be at risk if all of a sudden, you know, he can't win against the Lib Dems, or if they have a resurgence in the next election. Therefore, we want to put him in a safe seat. Is that unconscionable to you?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, constitutionally, a better function is the House of Lords. Stick him in the House of Lords if that's what you're worried about. If you think he can't win a general election, he can't talk to ordinary people, he hasn't got the nous, whatever, stick him in the House of Lords. And then, constitutionally, let's recognise that Lords ministers are limited. So they can't ever be Prime Minister. I agree with that. Both parties currently have that in their constitution. I'm such a backward world. I haven't actually read the Reform Constitution, so I don't know if they've got it in theirs. has, but the Conservative Party and the Labour Party have got it in theirs that they can't be Prime Minister. I think that's a reasonable thing. If I would encourage reform to put it in their constitution, because we shouldn't have Prime Ministers from the House of Lords. That would be obviously illegitimate. But that's the role of the House of Lords. Safe seats is abusing an area. It's abusing a place, and our constitution should work on the basis that every single place, every single constituency matters. Everybody in that land matters. If they're voters, then they matter, and they should get to pick who represents them. I honestly would much rather campaign for people who don't vote to vote, even if they're going to vote against the party I support. I don't care. I'd much rather that you exercise your vote. It's the most important thing you can do. And yeah, I actually think Sir Richard Dearlove could probably win a constituency, but
I'd love if Sir Richard Dearlove's listening to this right now, and we're sort of like indirectly changing the course of history by accident. And he's like, do you know what? I might get in touch with Nigel Farage. I'm going to come out of retirement.
Perhaps,
he would know how to deal with China.
And I would never presume to give any advance to Nigel or to reform. So I just bow out at that stage. But no, constitutionally, I'm against safe seats. I think they are obnoxious in every sense.
It's interesting. Yeah, I see it from a politically pragmatic point of view because of the sort of description I just said. But then, it sort of raises the question. Let's cover this one off quickly because we have to go for a break. But it raises the question of how local does a local have to be in a constituency? Because I personally find as a voter, I want the best candidate. I want the person who's going to do that job really well. I want them to have some idea of the constituency and some degree of an emotional connection to it. But it doesn't really bother me too much if they grew up there and then have lived other places, or didn't grow up there and recently have spent time there. I don't need it to be, like a stick of rock, you cut them in half and the name of the constituency is tattooed inside every artery and blood vessel.
Yes, and that's very important. Our constitution ties politicians to the land, and I think that's very important. For full disclosure, I was a Conservative councillor and I represented a ward I didn't live in. I still loved the place. I still actually really like it now, and often go to the pub there. It's a nice place, and I think it's important to force politicians to represent a place. That's what we do constitutionally. That's what's very important. The whole you have to have lived there your entire life, and that's obviously ridiculous. And it doesn't actually mean that you love a place more than anything else. In fact, I'm going to praise a Tory politician. I think one of the best was Michael Fabricant, because whilst he was an MP, he made it very, very clear that he loved his constituency. Absolutely. I watch him on Twitter. He loved the place. It was Lichfield, and he absolutely loved it. And that's what and I don't know whether he lives there or not, because I don't know.
He does.
Okay,
in a lovely house, in fact.
Right. But that is what we want. We want people who love the land and love the place and love the people of the place.
That was the purpose of the Commons, really, wasn't it? The representation from the Shires. Right, let us take a short break. Let's do some messages as well first, because there are plenty of those coming in. Hi, Alex. I was a little upset with the chap from Restore around what is British. I'm a pagan and respect wholeheartedly other religions, but I do not agree with him that if you are not Christian, you are not British, and un-Christian practices means you are not British. Scared me. Well, to that, as someone who is a Christian and a bit of an evangelist, can I just say, I think we should just take a leaf out of the Bible on this one, because Matthew 22:21, render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. In other words, politics here, religion there. So there you go. Again, Joanna from Salisbury says, after last night's hearing Charlie Downs, I could see why Rupert and Nigel went their separate ways. My ancestors are split. My great-grandparents probably stretched back 1,000 years, but one grandparent was German. My grandfather met during the reparations of World War I. So does that make me not British? The problem with this, and I've had this conversation with somebody on my show before, because we all like to think, no, it's easy. It's an easy question. So you're British if you're an actual Brit. And people always go, just if I were to suddenly move to China and have a child in China with a man who is also an Anglo-Saxon, would that person be Chinese? And you go, well, of course they're not Chinese genetically. But then I think to my own family, and I think to the fact my brother's wife's parents are both from Zimbabwe. But my brother's wife was born in Britain. She only knows Britain. She's got a British accent. She goes to school in Britain, went to university in Britain, has only ever lived here. She's got a British passport. Has never had a passport to Zimbabwe. I think she might have been to Zim once, if at all. So now she's not British, she's stateless. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, and my argument for this is, OK, we can have the conversation about ethno-nationalism and national identity until the cows come home, OK? I don't think there's a right and a wrong answer. You've got British by citizenship, British by residence, British by ethnicity. And we can have this debate until the cows come home. If you're going to build the programme of a political party on that fulcrum, which is where the interview started out yesterday when I said, what makes you different? And Charlie said, well, Nigel said about Britishness. If you're going to build the programme of a political party on that fulcrum, then we need to know who you're talking about, what you're going to do, and how. Because if it comes down to, well, only British people get whatever it may be, benefits, well, who's then, like, crossed off the list? Who's not allowed them? Or if it's British people should be prioritised for jobs, who then is now being discriminated against, and it's no longer a meritocracy? So similarly, you know, I just think we end up in a slippery slope when we end up bringing identity politics into that. That is what the woke left do. Identity politics, we've had it shoved down our throats, and it's not good. And it's not healthy. So I don't think we need to play them at their own game. That's my personal opinion. But I do think, more importantly, these are important questions to ask. If you're going to back a political party, what is it you intend to do? How do you intend to discriminate between different people, if that's how it's going to work? And what are the conditions? You know, if you say people who don't share British values should be deported, who decides what the British values are? How do you then know what people's value systems are? Because are we just going to end up like Sir Keir Starmer, arresting people for things they put on social media? This stuff needs padding out, because at the moment, some of the mood music raises more questions than it answers. Although we are going to be delving back into that a bit later on in the programme. Keep your thoughts coming in. Right, we're going to take a break now, but lots more to sink our teeth into, so don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right. Let's talk about the great Chagos giveaway and following the money, shall we, Stephen? Because, you know, here's a little secret for the audience. I wrote a piece the other day on the legal cartel surrounding Sir Keir Starmer, their shared history in certain barristers' chambers, some of the sort of cases that they've worked on, some pro bono, some of the legislation they've been responsible for drawing up, who's been to visit the Chagos Islands, who's donating to whose campaigns, and I thought to myself, gosh, I'm dealing with some pretty sharp-toothed lawyers here. I might send my article to another lawyer for his opinion on how much hot water I might end up in. So I did send that, my article on the legal cartel around Starmer too, Steve. So he should be relatively clued up on this subject. But I find out, even more today, which is the amount of work that Sir Keir Starmer's good friend Philip Sands, KC, potentially has received as a result of negotiating the Chagos Islands deal. Apparently, the contract was worth £8 million. He was the lead negotiator. He was the chief legal counsel to Mauritius between 2010 and 2024. We know he's a friend of Sir Keir Starmer. We know he's very close with the Attorney General, Lord Hermer. We know that they've been writing the legislation on Chagos. We know that Philip Sands is making money from this. We know that Philip Sands has become a Mauritian citizen. And we know that the money we have to pay to Mauritius for Chagos means Mauritius are going to set up a tax-free haven over there, which if you're a citizen, like Philip Sands, you would profit from that. We also know, can I just say, that he took one Sir Keir Starmer to Mauritius for a little visit not so long ago. I mean, if anything stinks of, my goodness, we've got to look into this and follow the money, here it is, the smoking gun.
Yes, I mean, I would like to see treason trials in the future. There's a very well-run country on this planet. It's called Singapore, and it has an independent police outfit that investigates political corruption, and I would like to have one of those. I don't wish to prejudice any of its work, so I'll tread lightly here, and I certainly won't prejudice any of its work, certainly not if we have judges of the merit of Mr. Justice Goose. So I speak with some comfort in all of this. But if things stink, it's because they're rotten. Okay, that the most important sense that you have as a human being is quite probably your sense of smell. It protects you. Our eyesight is great, touch is phenomenal, and all the rest of it. But your sense of smell will stop you from real dangers, and this absolutely stinks. I do worry that most of the public still don't know enough about Chagos, still don't know. And I am more than happy to make it absolutely clear there is no basis in law to give away the Chagos Islands. There is no basis in law to pay to give away the Chagos Islands. There is no basis in law to steal the money that actually belongs to the Chagos Islanders and give it to Mauritius. The entire thing stinks. It just stinks, Alex.
It is insane. It is insane. All the furore over Boris Johnson's petrol station Prosecco. And this, which is handing British territory to an ally of a hostile state and paying a lot of money for it, and that territory having a critical shared US-UK military base. And it's all been done by the Prime Minister's actual cronies who are his mates. This is, to me, this is mad, and this is huge, and this is... So it's imperative that we look into this. I am just, I'm afraid to say when it comes to the legacy media channels, they may as well not exist. I don't think they know what journalism is anymore. It's rather a disgrace. We've got to take another break now, Steve, but don't you go anywhere because there's lots more still to discuss after the break. Again, I'm going to squeeze in messages because there are a lot coming in. Elliot's message going, you know full well there are cultures and countries that will not mix with Western culture, and there are countries and races that are pretty much no threats to British culture. It's a stupid, scared conversation by people who are frightened of being cancelled. You will not learn until it's too late, will you? I can't watch you anymore. Well, if you're not scared, Elliot, about talking about this, who are you talking about? You didn't say in your message which countries and cultures don't mix with Western culture, or whom among them they may be, or how, if they're living here, third, fourth, fifth generation, we identify them, or what we do with them. Those are the questions I want answering. I'm the first person to turn around and say there are men from deeply misogynistic cultures, largely the Maghreb and the Middle East, which are dominated by very conservative medieval Islam, that have really abhorrent attitudes towards women, and we can see this evidentially in the way way that they treat women in their home countries. I'm the first person to say that. In fact, I think you'll find, Elliot, I pretty much started that conversation. But it doesn't mean I now think it's okay to go around extolling Britishness as ethno-nationalism and try and build a political programme based upon that without some very serious questions being asked. These are febrile times. We can't just go along with a wrecking ball and join the identity politics brigade, because that, my friend, does not lead to a good outcome. I can tell you this right away from somebody who has worked in countries with tribal voting culture that ends in post-election violence. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know how this game works. If you want to play national identity, ethnopolitics and tribal voting blocks, you will be picking bones up from the streets, my friends. That's just my thoughts, but what would I know? I've not worked most of my life in politics, have I? Just saying. Right. Going to take a short break while I cool off, wipe the sweat from my brow, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about it's a really horrific story about a smuggler king deliberately death-trapping migrant boats to fail. That's what we're dealing with, people. That's after this.
Join me, Ian Collins, every weekday from 1.
My 12-year-old. Obviously, he won't be 12 then, he'll be 16, but if he's anything like he is now, he shouldn't be anywhere near an election booth. Do you sympathise with him? Is he the victim of the 24-hour news cycle we just spoke of?
I think his failings are internal. He's useless, incompetent, has no political judgment.
Everything you need to know. All the breaking news right here on Talk.
Weekday afternoons from 1 o'clock. Only at the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Now, this story is rather astonishing. It's about Adem Savas, a humble fisherman with his own boat business. Oh, how nice. But behind the scenes, he was actually a ruthless crime boss with a multi-million-pound sideline in selling migrant boats with engines the size of go-karts. This is a story in The Sun about smuggling gangs and their depravity. It's been revealed that Savas deliberately fitted vessels with engines so small they only just made it to British waters, forcing rescuers to bring the migrants to the UK. Again, it's all about maximising profit. Oh no, this isn't Care for Calais handing out the gruel and the life jackets and putting people on their boats and advising about immigration laws. These are ruthless, inhumane people who see the other people risking their lives, getting on those boats as simple units of profitability. Let's talk about this, Steve. Savas apparently boasted he was king of the people's smugglers. Thankfully, he's been jailed for 11 years last month as part of a Europe-wide investigation linked to someone who, of course, ran a barber shop in Ilford, because everyone needs a Kurdish barber these days, don't they? Nothing to see here. But again, we know that they're buying all of these supplies to build these boats, etc., from our new bestie mates, trading partners, Sir Keir Starmer's #1 favourite country of them all, China.
Well, we just need to accept that our goodness, our inherent kindness, is weaponized against us. This is what the Professor Gad Saad talks about with suicidal empathy. It's really the one manipulative tool they have. And this evil, evil man was deliberately selling ship motors that were insufficient for the job so that they would look sympathetic. Some of them would, of course, die, but he didn't care. And they would look sympathetic, and then the RNLI or Border Force would come out and rescue these people. Our goodness, our kindness is being used as a weapon against us. And we must, I'm afraid, harden our hearts. I find it quite funny, Alex, because you're very good at doing this. But if you talk to a man in my status in the 19th century, he'd say that all the problem is women. Women, they have these weak hearts. They're too sympathetic. And that's why we can't give them the vote. Now, I think that's absolute tosh and gibberish, as well you know. And I have the deepest respect.
I've heard a lot of that over the last 24 hours. I'm fed up with hearing the misogyny, quite frankly. I mean, everyone's like, women shouldn't be in politics. And then they'll all be like, isn't Margaret Thatcher wonderful? Make up your mind.
It's just ridiculous. Or, to my mind, Kate Howie or Claire Fox. Just go boil your heads. It's nothing to do with being a woman or a man. It's got to do with being a human being who simply allows their emotions to be manipulated against them. Okay, I love my child, but my child has tried to manipulate my emotions against me in order to get away from obeying rules, because people don't like obeying rules. That's absolutely normal. My dog does exactly the same thing. We have to grow up, toughen up, be adults who are not open to emotional manipulation and who simply go, in the case of the small boats, this should not be happening. We should be stabbing these boats or shooting these boats before they even leave the shores of Calais. If any of them leave the shores of Calais, they should be pushed back there. That's it. We have a navy. I admit it's a bit run down and a bit rubbish, and that is no insult to anyone who serves in our navy, but I would like more ships, and I would like us to have more military capacity. We can't. We got invaded by in Chagos. We got invaded by the Maldives, and nobody's noticed because we simply don't have the naval capacity to go over and rescue Chagos. The whole thing's a joke, unless you're a lefty lawyer who makes a lot of money out of it. The whole thing's just a joke.
Oh, it's a sick joke, unfortunately, Stephen. Stephen, you've been wonderful tonight. Thank you ever so much. It's always brilliant catching up with you. The brilliant Stephen Barrett, ladies and gentlemen, are going to do some more messages. Let's read this one. I'm very disappointed with Alex with her interview with Charlie Downs. Okay. I think she tried to goad Charlie into making a racist remark. No, I was asking him questions based upon, if you're going to say, I first asked him what's the difference between restore and reform, and he said basically British identity. So I said, okay, what does that mean? And I was trying to make him answer what it means. Then I was trying to make him answer, well, if that is the basis of the difference, how are you going to execute this policy? And by the way, he says Alex did act like a 5-year-old. Well, a very interesting 5-year-old with journalistic skills. Maybe a conflict of interest. No, let me explain something to you. Yes, I know many people in Reform. Yes, I was elected to the Brexit Party. But believe you me, when I've had people from Reform being interviewed, for instance, when I was grilling them about lifting the two-child benefit cap, I wasn't taking any prisoners. When Layla Cunningham came on my show and said that she basically threw the appointment of Nadine Dorris, the defection of Nadine Dorris under a bus, we all got excited because that was a great news line. Because I'm a journalist. I worked for the BBC. I worked for ITV. I worked for international newspapers. I helped set up GB News. I work here. I went to Cardiff Journalism School. The word news is on the outside of my building. And if you don't like the way I've done an interview, then I'm sorry, but it's probably a reflection on the person I'm interviewing, and therefore your bias, not mine. Just got that off my chest. Sorry, I'm going to carry on doing my job as I think I should do professionally after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, guys. Okay. We've got an hour more of news and strong opinions, so brace yourselves for those, would you? Have a tot or two of something tasty and gear yourself up ready for 9 o'clock, because we are going to pull out the plug and just let it all go wild tonight, because Paul Cox is going to be here in the studio, and I love Weird Hour with Paul Cox. I've been looking forward to it since last Tuesday. The man is a hoot. OK, right, let's dig our teeth back into today's big news stories, because a lot happened today. There was, of course, that Reform press conference where Nigel was announcing a sort of, well, tiny little shadow of a shadow cabinet, because if that is all the shadow cabinet's going to be, it's basically the reflection of a gnat standing in the sunshine. But 4 positions have been announced, and he's basically saying, well, off you go. These are your portfolios now. You have jurisdiction over them. Go forth, make policy and represent. And of those that were announced, one of them was Suella Braverman. And of course, I think, you know, most people in Britain are more used to Suella Braverman in the role of the Home Office and talking tough on immigration and crime and borders and going over and visiting Rwanda and saying, look at all this great accommodation we've had built here. But now they've put her in place in education. And also, perhaps more interestingly, the Equalities Office, and apparently her first duty if form a government will be to scrap the position of Equalities Minister and indeed the Equalities Act. Let's speak to the brilliant Rakib Ehsan, who's a social policy analyst, Alex's mum's favourite. Rakib, how are you doing? Rakib. Oh, well, looks like I'm hanging out by myself. There he is.
Oh,
What's
Alex,
going
can you hear
on
me?
there? We had a sort of a sort of ellipsis of a delay then. The suspense was killing me. Right, let's get stuck in. Okay, what do you make of scrapping not only the office of the Equalities Minister, but the Equalities Act and DEI? Is that a good move? Is that a dangerous move? Have we overcorrected? Should we be keeping part of it? Or is it time we just went, that era is over?
Well, I think that when it comes to diversity, equality and inclusion, I think the problem is, Alex, is that over time that's enabled what I'd consider to be positive forms of discrimination. And I think if you actually look at the preferences of ethnic and racial minorities living in the UK, what they want is fairness, not favours. And I think that you saw the situation with the Royal Air Force, for example, in terms of the recruitment of pilots. In my view, that was a very clear case of anti-white and anti-male discrimination. So I think increasingly what we're seeing with the Equality Act, and the Equality Act was passed under New Labour. At the time, I was a very youthful university student. That's very much ancient history now. I was supportive of it because ultimately I thought that this will help to bolster equality of opportunity, and this would stamp out discrimination, especially when it came to employment procedures. But what you've seen over time is that you could call it almost a form of reverse discrimination. And I think that what's happened is that it's almost become an instrument to be quite exclusionary in terms of its implications, especially for the white British majority. And I think that if we're living in a truly successful multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy, then we need to have proper equality of opportunity. And I don't think that the Equality Act, over time, it's been exploited in a way that's actually worked against meritocracy as opposed to aiding it.
Is there a cause for concern, though, that that reform could be throwing out the baby with the bathwater? The reason I ask is, let's imagine, because essentially it prevents discrimination for 9 protected characteristics. Brilliant. And I agree with a lot of what you say, that this has been massively overstretched. It's being used in places it shouldn't be. It's being stretched in ad infinitum until it sort of becomes racist and discriminatory itself. But when there are things such as, I think of this as a woman, sexual discrimination, and I don't mean, Me Too movement, oh, he called me darling in the workplace, boo-hoo, I'm going to HR, I don't care. But I would be disappointed if I've been overlooked for a job because someone thinks, well, she might want to have children, or have some sort of. I've just come under a lot of misogynistic and sexist attack over the last 24 hours, so it's a pretty open wound for me right now. But I'm noticing now, with a lot of people being drummed up online, we seem to be back to women shouldn't get the vote. I mean, there is part of me that goes, okay, maybe there was some good stuff that we want to keep. How do we do that? Or is it a case of, there's enough there in criminal law, there's enough there in terms of workers' rights that we don't need this extra layer of legislation?
Well, I think there's a case for amending existing legislation. That's one option, or that there can be a kind of replacement piece of legislation. I don't think scrapping the Equality Act in its entirety and not having anything to replace it with, I don't think that would be particularly wise, specifically for the points that you mentioned. I also think that if you look at the protected characteristics, there's been a great deal of emphasis in the DEI space, such as race. And I think that others, such as sexual orientation, has been given a great deal of focus in the DEI space. But I think that one neglected protected characteristic, and one that I care about a great deal, is disability. I think that we, as a society, I think we could do a great deal more in terms of enabling and maximising the potential of disabled people, and also creating spaces which are more inclusive in terms of them enjoying civic life in the UK.
I really agree with you. There's been so much made of things like, sexual orientation, the pronouns police. Oh, we need toilets, we need to go in these change rooms, as if they're suffering, an actual disability. And I'm like, what about people in actual wheelchairs? What about blind people? I think as a society, you just go on the London Underground. We don't do enough to look after people who are physically handicapped and have their lives massively reduced in terms of both their enjoyment and their ability to, go out and earn a living, because we seem to elevate characteristics above genuine disadvantage.
No, I completely agree, and I think that that's why I think that in some ways I'd be uncomfortable if the Equality Act was scrapped in its entirety, because I think that there are still some barriers to access depending on some of those protected characteristics, particularly disability, and I also think that there is a weakness of the Equality Act, that it doesn't include class. Now, I think that social class is very difficult to define, but I think that in a society which has traditionally been as stratified as ours, I still think there are certain class-based barriers to opportunities. And I think when you overlap that with regional inequalities, then I think that we're anything but a perfect meritocracy. So I think that when we look at equalities, I think that we can clearly identify where there have been very serious problems when it comes to diversity, equality, and inclusion. But still understand that as a society, we have some way to go in terms of providing equality of opportunity for all of our citizens.
Now, before I let you go, Rakib, I don't know if you'd sort of seen the hullabaloo going on online, because I got it in the neck because I deigned to ask probing questions of Rupert Lowe's new political party, although it isn't a registered political party yet, Restore Britain. And my main concern was the emergence of identity politics on the right wing, the emergence of identity politics in populism. We've had it up to the eyeball with identity politics on the left wing, and I think it is injurious, I think is divisive, I think it sort of is a slippery slope to something ugly. And so I'm concerned about it. As somebody who has worked in East Africa, right, in Kenya for the elections over there, where at election time it all breaks down into which way is your tribe voting, and then they form these super coalitions, and after the election they like to go around killing each other when their tribe doesn't get in. And yes, we have imposed mass immigration on this country, which is the main problem, dividing society. Yes, I do feel we're almost at an 11th hour, and something quite specifically has to be done before we end up hurtling towards a pretty grim fate, as I have just outlined. But I personally have a huge amount of trepidation over identity politics, especially when they're executed on, well, anywhere, frankly speaking, but on the right wing. And I just wanted to get your position on that. You know, is this simply a case of, well, it's almost like Newton's third law. Every force has an equal and opposite force in nature. Is it the overcorrection we need? Is there not a problem? Am I just being a little bit squeamish? Or you know, are we right as voters to be asking more about, OK, if this is going to be a central point of your party's ideology, how is that going to manifest in terms of policy?
Well, I think that what we've seen in recent times, we've seen the rise of racial, ethnic and religious identity politics in our democracy within minority groups. And I think, unfortunately, that was going to lead to some kind of political and cultural backlash within the white British majority. Now, there's data which shows that the majority of people in the UK, they favour a civic understanding of nationhood, but more ethnic conceptions of nationhood, they are growing in popularity. And I've warned about the astonishing demographic changes that we've experienced in recent times, and also the fact that there is that rise of what you consider to be sort of a tribal politics almost along ethnic and religious lines within communities which you'd consider to be more clannish. They have a deep sort of sense of in-group preference, especially when it comes to politics and the way they view how their communities should be structured more generally, especially in terms of local governance. So I think that what we're seeing here, that there is that rise of a sort of, you can almost call it a sort of a Christian nationalism in some ways within Restore Britain. I also think that's because over time, Christianity, I think among the liberal intelligentsia, the secular intelligentsia, it's always been sneered at. While I think other minority religions, they've approached them with a certain degree of caution, you could say. So I think that sort of two-tierism, I think it has given rise to identity politics. And I think it's worth understanding what's driving that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand entirely what is driving it, and wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying as both a Christian and an enthusiastic patriot.
Indeed.
I'm very happy to see Christianity being put forefront in terms of discussion, but I I'm a big believer in separating religion from politics in terms of the execution of it. And I do wonder, I mean, you know, for instance, if we're playing the game of ancestry, what's going to happen to Rakib in that world?
Well,
what happens to you?
Well, quite. I mean, I think that the point here is that we're having those debates on race and ancestry. But the point is, I think it's better to have those debates in the open as opposed to trying to pushing them underground, which has been happening for far too long. And I think that there is a middle ground to be struck, that you can say that ultimately we can have a civic understanding of what it means to be British, but also understand that there are certain ethnic groups. There's a native established population that's played more of a role in establishing that British state. And when you look specifically in England, I think that we've had that big debate about English identity. You can be a member of an ethnic, racial and religious minority. You can have a deep affection for England. You can feel that you really relate to what are sort of traditional elements of English culture. But I think to deny that there's certain ethnic groups and that there's an ethnic dimension to Englishness. I think the fact that that's, by some people, they've denied that outright, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think we can have that conversation in the open. I think it's healthy too. And what I'd like to see is a sort of confident assertion of this nation's history and this nation's culture. You know, we should have a St. George's Day, bank holiday. We should have the Union flag hanging from our buildings. Let's get out the trestle tables and put some cucumber sandwiches on because the king is doing something. All of that stuff. Let's all celebrate and have late night opening when the English football team do well in the World Cup. Whatever. All of those things, brilliant. I don't want to see Christianity denigrated, kicked out. I don't want to see minority religions and cultures over promoted. Why there are Ramadan lights right now on Regent Street is a mystery to me. We're not blimmin' Karachi. I'm sorry, that is one of the main thoroughfares of this country. It is like the shop window for London, which is the capital city of the United Kingdom. I don't be wanting the Ramadan lights. Don't mean people can't celebrate Ramadan, but as far as I'm concerned, it's Shrove Tuesday, Ash Wednesday tomorrow. It is Easter. Let us talk about that instead. But what I do worry about is when you start attaching, if it's not the positive salesmanship of our national identity in that regard, in terms of, well, look, let's look at this, for instance. You know, Suella Braverman wants a patriotic curriculum. I'm all for that. I'm all for people being told that their country is good and the country's history is good, particularly when there's many things to celebrate. But it's when it's sort of injected into, when I hear this sort of this mixture at the moment, which is what I'm getting, of both conversations about ethnic and national identity and in the same sentences as mass deportations, that's when I need clarification. I need clarification because if you naturally wed together ethnic identity and deportations, you end up with Idi Amin.
Well, I think that when you have emerging political movements or indeed parties, such as Restore Britain, they have to make it very clear how they're going to go about those mass deportations, who qualifies for that, and how they're going to go about it. What's going to be their method? What's going to be the policy methodology behind all of this? But I think that if they're going to push forward a very sort of very pure, almost you could say puritanical understanding of British identity, I think that they'll naturally alienate a great number of people in the population. But they may also be representing what we consider to be a smallish section of the population that feels unheard when it comes to matters of immigration, integration and identity. And maybe the fact that they might have some political representation is better if they have that kind of formal political representation as opposed to having those views pushed underground. That is the point that I'd make. But I think in terms of, you know, in terms of talking about that English pride and being proud of our Christian heritage, I think that's why we have this asymmetrical multiculturalism where you have minority groups. They're given that freedom to be proud of their ethnic and religious identity. But if you're living in a truly vibrant multicultural democracy, then surely the sort of traditional English culture and, you know, Christian traditions, they'll also be championed. They'll also be celebrated. But I think that too many of our public institutions, they've been very open in terms of celebrating minority cultures and traditions, but they've been somewhat reluctant and even, I'd say in some way, squeamish finish when it comes to English Christian identity. And I do think that's something that needs to be corrected.
Right. I mean, like I said, any practicing Muslim out there wants to celebrate Ramadan, have a wonderful time. Enjoy iftar, all the rest of it. Great. I've been in Morocco during Ramadan and I got invited to breaking of the fast and it was wonderful and my reception was so kind and generous and that's great.
And Alex, I have to make this point very clear. I think that there's a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of victimhood politics, especially when it comes to, among some British Muslims. And I'd say this as a British Muslim. I think that what we need to say is actually that we're very fortunate to be living in the UK, especially when it comes to when you look at other countries like France, which is a very aggressive form of secularism. And I think that we should enjoy and we should appreciate that religious freedom, but it's important that it's not exploited. I think that's the key.
Exactly, that's the thing. I mean, I still find it, my personal opinion is I find it an affront to see Ramadan lights around the main shopping thoroughfare when it's also Easter. That is a sense of, as, a British Christian, I kind of feel like it's gone a bit far. Get back in your own lane, if you know what I mean. I can imagine certain parts of Bradford or the Curry Mile or whatever, whatever, stick lights up. But the capital city, the main thoroughfare, I'm like, this feels a little bit, pushing it a bit far, for my personal opinion. I can understand why it gets people's backs up. Rakib, it's always fantastic speaking to you. You're so wise. My mum loves you. I can see why. The brilliant Rakib Ehsan there. A lot of conversations need to be had, don't they, about politics, about what we're walking into. We can't sleepwalk into this. Like I said, we live in such a febrile time. So much harm and wanton destruction has been levelled against this country and its culture, and I can understand people's frustrations. And I can understand fully that they want the solutions now. They want to be reassured that change is coming, that the 11th hour has been reached, but don't worry, we're going to act immediately and urgently to save the day. But we've got to take a breath. We've got to know what we're doing. Because, I'm telling you, if we don't, the fallout will be catastrophic. Here we go. Evening, Alex. I was a member of Restore and was a target for some horrendous homophobic abuse from many of their supporters in chat rooms and WhatsApp Restore platforms because I was openly gay. I was shocked and horrified at some of the vile abuse I received. I've cancelled my membership. And I'm now with Reform and accepted without abuse. Restore and Advance attracts the worst of characters, I'm afraid, on a par with 1970 skinheads. They're scary and divisive, says Rob in London. Look, all I'm saying is the backlash I got last night after that interview weren't pretty. Oh, I've had a lot from the left over my time, but some of the sick, sad, incel-esque remarks that I was getting last night, it's a disgrace. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying if you support Restore, that is you. I'm not. I just think we need to have an open debate about someone's intentions. It's a bit different when you're a commentator and you come and go, blah, 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 culture, heritage, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. That's aspirational. That's mood music. That's vibes. When you're a political party and you're setting out a mandate for election, you've got to be crystal clear, particularly when the subject is as sensitive as this. That's all I was trying to elucidate from yesterday's interview, but blimmin' heck, was I met with a barrage of abuse as a result. Anyway, sorry guys, if you hated it, I've got a thick skin. Try harder. Good evening, Alex. I've just put a G&T to settle into your show, hopefully waiting that one day you'll announce you'll become a Reform MP. I'm a journalist, but I'm sure it's not a matter of if, but when. Hopefully for Hastings and Rye. Jason and Hastings. I'll tell you what, Jace. If the people of Hastings and Rye would have me, I love Rye. That is one of my favourite places on earth. I could run the Alex Phillips party. Do you remember in the 90s, there was actually a group called Alex Party, and their main song was, "Don't give me your lies, give me your lies." There you go, that could be my mood music. But Rye, fantastic place. Often go and stay at the Mermaid Hotel. It is a national treasure. Oh, everything about Rye is brilliant. I might have to go there as soon as the weather clears up. OK, with all the constant doom and gloom we have these days, do you see people finding or returning to actual Christian faith? Or are they leaning more towards traditional values without necessarily being religious? Asks Oliver in Somerset. My answer is both. I think that there's a huge growth at the moment, particularly in sort of modern Evangel Church, and a bit of an explosion in the Catholic Church. And I think that, these things happen organically. People have realised that life was a bit better when there was a bit of moral adhesive helping coordinate social normatives. And Leslie says, hi again, the pagan here. Hello, pagan. Thank you for your response to my concern. that's okay, Leslie. You are more than reassured that whatever gods you may worship, that's fine. You crack on in your own time. Just don't put your lights up Regent Street, okay? That's it. Brilliant rant, Alex. Love you. You're a journalist, not a sleuth. My thanks, whoever that was from. I am a journalist. People go, "And she's not a journalist. Oh, shut up, you're not a journalist." And I'm like, I went to the best journalism school in the UK. I worked for the BBC, I worked for ITV, I helped set up GB News, I worked for the Hindu newspaper in India, Metro TV. I mean, seriously, I got more blimmin' lanyards from all the journalistic companies I worked at. I could walk around like Mr. T, waving them all around if it would reassure you a bit more that I try and be a professional. All right, onwards and upwards, shall we? Because coming up next, I'm joined by the brilliant young Bob. He's going to be here in the studio. He's a youth activist and currently, I believe, supporting Restore Britain. So let's ask him for his opinions on what differentiates them from reform, why he's backing them, and where this may lead. That's coming up after this.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening, the noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Pleased to have your company. Is that the third drink you're on now? Behave, you've got work tomorrow. When you have a headache in the morning, don't you blame me. Three-finger gin. Joined in the studio by the brilliant young Bob, youth activist. I love the fact it's a bit like a Brazilian footballer having just like the name Bob, young Bob.
Yeah, like whenever I embarrass people, whenever I talk to them, just my points holding water and being called young Bob is quite damning for them. So I like that there's a comedic aspect that I can't take myself too seriously.
I love it as well, and I think you're very tenacious and very brave to be coming and doing all these things at such a tender age. You're still 17, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, able to vote then in the next election.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing, though.
Well, actually, depending when the next election is, you may well be 18 by then. Right, now, if you were going to vote in that election, who would you be voting for? Because my understanding is it's potentially at the moment Restore Britain. I get confused with there's Reclaim, Reform, Restore.
Yeah, it'd be Restore.
It'd be Restore. OK, Tell me, what has attracted you to Restore, out of all of the sort of options there on the right wing of politics, assuming you're fishing only in those waters, as opposed to going for any of the other outfits?
Well, whenever looking at a political party, it's its credibility, so its integrity, and it's also ability to run in general elections. Now, for being a small party built from a pressure movement, Restore Britain meets those two facets, so that's why I'm supporting them.
I mean, as yet, they haven't registered as a party. They haven't got a branch structure, maybe they do have an executive, I don't know. I don't believe they do, a written constitution, all of the other sort of cogs in the machinery that make a fully functioning political party. Do you think they're going to be able to upgrade and expand enough in time to run in a general and potentially even win and form a government?
I mean, if you look at the traction and momentum and infrastructure necessary in the time that Reform had in building that to serve as a machine to run in a general election, I believe that Restore can replicate that, and you're already seeing it with it now just being announced that there's a further 7 defections from Kent Council to Restore Britain. So,
but do you think it's necessary for them to have things like branches around the country and regional organisers, and to be able to come up with a full slate of candidates, vet all those candidates? It's a big operation running a nationwide political party, and arguably I see what you mean. Reform has sort of, in theory, turned the corner quite quickly, but they did have a sort of nascent heritage, if you will, in the Brexit Party, in UKIP. Nigel Farage has been around running political parties for 30 years.
Well, I would say that that's the first thing that Rupert addressed in his very viral video, that he would be
such as the Greens, who I think have fairly strident policies.
Well, splitting the vote just assumes that there's another party to split the vote with. I believe that Reform is actually part of the establishment, and we actually need a principled right-wing party to lend our support to.
Well, but I mean, Reform it would split the vote with Reform, one imagines, because Reform is there doing very well, and one would imagine if people are going to end up voting for Restore, the likely provenance of that vote is going to be from Reform UK.
Well, you could have said the same thing about Reform in the last general election with the Conservatives. In fact, it wasn't Labour that won, but rather the Tories that lost because they split the vote between Reform and the Tories. So I'll just give the argument that the right wing is a principled movement that wants to see the protection of our women and children, and we do that through voting principally, not based on compromise. I mean, even if you look at what Labour's doing, they're essentially on track to perform what Reform are promising in government. They've drastically decreased illegal forms of migration. So we actually need to look at what is the fundamental issue with this country, and I believe it's the restoration of Britain.
OK, what does the restoration for you involve?
Well, restoration looks like reversing the demographic replacement of our people. Of course, if you look at places like Whitechapel, they totally have an in-group preference. I mean, you had 2 councillors trying to stand in a Bangladeshi election. So I certainly feel like looking towards more legal forms of migration to then restore and take back some of these areas that have been completely mismanaged by immigration.
How do you reverse it? I can understand you can turn off the tap now. You can turn around and say, no more mass migration or no migration from these particular countries. You could take all sorts of approaches to press the pause button. It's a very different thing trying to then make second, third, even first generation immigrants who've come here leave again.
But it doesn't matter about whether it's practical or not. Millions must go. I mean, if you look at the current state of the country, it cannot continue. Even the Prime Minister admitted it. We've become an island of strangers.
It does matter, though, how that policy is envisioned and how it's then executed. If millions must go, by what way would you think would be a good way of
I think it's also hypocrisy, because if you look at what Prosper UK says, it says that the popularism of reform isn't practical, so we shouldn't vote for them.
Who's
so
Prosper UK?
It's the people that want like this conservative, moderate right-wing position, and they're totally against popularism. So I would say that the Conservative Party gives the same argument for reform, and they still want to compromise and lend towards the left-wing support of the party, therefore not truly being a right-wing alternative for the patriots of Britain.
I think it's a fair question to ask.
Well, you have self-deportation methods. So you have like banning halal meat, banning the burqa, which, by the way, when Zia Yusuf heard that they were potentially going to ban the burqa, he stepped down as chairman, then assumed the position of head of policy, because he understood that then he could direct the party away from being against banning the burqa, which is absolutely hypocrisy.
We don't know that is his intentions. We don't know the conversations that have happened behind the scenes, and certainly I would suggest to you, Sarah Poachin asked it as her maiden question in the House of Parliament, that would have been done with the complicity of Nigel Farage. I mean, I'd find it astonishing if you didn't know she was going to ask that. So I don't know where the party...
What's the first question you can ask to the Prime Minister?
I don't know. I'm just. I would imagine that conversation with the party leader would have happened because it's
so
a
your
maiden
assumption
speech.
is more likely than mine?
Yes.
So why is that then?
Because I know the characters probably a lot better than you do, and so
it's just like inference, right?
Like,
why stand down after being against, Islamic sectarianism?
Let's go back to the question.
Being a Muslim yourself, and then saying that you can be the head of policy because you can decide the direction of the party. Considering he's the same man as well, mind you, that decided that he would make false allegations to Rupert Lowe that he's received death threats, which then caused the police to waste resources in raiding his home. I mean, Zia Yusuf is a complete scumbag. He doesn't deserve to be in a shadow cabinet.
Zia Yusuf isn't here for me to put that to him. I can't really take that anymore. I can't answer on his behalf for those things. But let's go back to the fundamental question, which is, if what attracts you to Restore Britain is the promise that millions of people should be leaving Britain, and my question is who and how?
But based on their ability to integrate. So we can begin in the names of Farage, of the reason he actually decided to kick out Rupert. We can start deporting tribes of people. So, of course, famously, we all agree, people who come here illegally, foreign criminals, and those who don't socially integrate.
How do you, those who don't socially integrate, who are those people? How do you decide who crosses whatever threshold you've got for integration? How do you discern who they are, and by what legal mechanism are you then sending them out of the country?
OK, so social integration is this understanding that two ideas can overlap with one another. And clearly, if you look at, for example, Islamic extremism, those ideas don't integrate with one another, right? Because they're diametrically
if we're saying if you're saying that fundamentally you would like to see Islamic extremists deported, how is that going to be executed? Because I agree with you, I don't particularly want Islamists in the United Kingdom. I don't want any form of religious extremism in the United Kingdom, whether they're pro-Khalistanis, whether they're extremist Buddhists even, But how do you, when things are said like this, what I want to know is how this is assessed, how is it monitored, how do you discern who those people are?
Self-deportation methods. So you ban halal meat, you ban the burqa publicly, and those practices which have of course, contrary to the national interest, if you are caught committing those acts, you can go home. Because you have no actual interests in being in London to begin with. This is Anglo-Saxon England.
So if we put in place, as a nation, the banning of non-stun slaughter, again, something I wholly agree with, and banning of the burqa, again, something I wholly agree with. Do you think that is going to see the exodus of non-integrated peoples to the levels that would satisfy you?
I mean, the reason why the Muslims are going en masse to the Green Party is because they're even afraid that if reform get in, they'll leave. So certainly a Restore government will ensure that.
So in terms of, if what you would end up with by putting those policies in place is the sort of most committed of the Islamists saying, look, we can't live here as we would want to, therefore we're going to go to the 53 Islamic republics that exist in the world instead, or some other place that doesn't have those policies. We're seeing these policies, by the way, at the moment being explored in Scandinavia, in Sweden, in Denmark. I have no doubt that it will cross the UK political agenda.
Can I ask
as
just a quick question? Are you against the banning of halal and kosher meat?
No, I just said I'd be for the banning of
both halal and kosher.
Yes.
Of both kosher and halal?
Well, yes, because I don't believe animals should suffer. Interesting.
Are you against the ban of the burqa?
Yes.
Okay, so then we both agree that those are two things that would get rid of people.
Well, we both agree that I don't think they fit in with UK society. What I want to know is whether you think that is going to be enough to.
Well, it's certainly a start.
It's a start. But
and Yusuf clearly doesn't like it.
If it isn't enough for a sort of mass exodus to the levels that you might hope, then what? Or is that just it? You draw a line under that point and then you say, OK, we tried our best, that's that.
Well, there's certainly other forms of self-deportation methods. So you can focus on more like nativism as well. So you restrict who you give benefits to. If you come here, you shouldn't expect to receive benefits.
Reform has announced that they wouldn't give benefits to foreign nationals.
So you're asking me what is other forms of self-deportation methods? Those are one of them.
OK, because what I'm trying to establish, and look, Restore haven't really put forward full policy tracks yet. It's been
more
more
a full migration policy document that's pages and pages long.
But what we need to know is the more granular detail of how things are going to be executed, because like I said, as somebody who has worked in developing world countries and third world countries, quite frankly, where there's post-election violence, when there is a marriage of, I just think identity politics is pretty horrific anywhere, wherever it emerges. I'm personally not a fan. Because I think it's ominous, I think it's divisive, the difficulty is it just becomes very difficult. If someone's saying, this person hasn't integrated, or they hate the culture, or they are saying things about Britain that are unconscionable and awful, and therefore they shouldn't be here, does that mean that would certain people out there who might back Restore be pro a policy almost a bit like Starmer's post-Southport riots playbook? You put something offensive on Twitter, you're being arrested.
I mean, there's a complete difference between enacting practices which go against the national interests and posting a tweet on social media. There's a complete difference between nearly bankrupting Tower Hamlets Council because you're focusing on Bangladesh more than you are England compared to making a tweet when you're drunk. OK, so this isn't about, because Rupert Lowe has said if you don't like our values, you'll be gone. And I want to know how that is discerned, how that is executed, how that is judged, who decides what these values are. Are we going door to door in a Spanish Inquisition asking people if they know every word to the Lord's Prayer and can sing Rule Britannia? When these things are being talked about in the round, because we live in such a febrile environment, I just need to know, and it's my job to elucidate on behalf of people who are going to make electoral decisions, what that's going to actually entail. I mean, hopefully we can all agree that this is the first barrier of entry, that we must respect the culture of our land. I mean, if you don't operate in that way, what you end up being is what Priya Starmer actually mentioned, being an island of strangers, having cohorts of people that can't communicate with the rest of the areas of our country. In terms of what they are actually composed of, well, we can actually start speaking about that when we're in government, but it comes towards the culture of our land.
Those things would have to be spoken about before going into government. That's the point. When people are trying to make a choice, if Restore Britain are going to be in ship-shape form to stand candidates in May coming, then people will need to know those arguments now. You can't.
Well, that's what
wait to say we're
integration
going to be in
is literally just
then...
this idea that two ideas can overlap to one another. So if they're geometrically opposed, you can go home.
I totally understand the ideas, and I totally am sympathetic.
Okay, so you understand what the ideas of the British people are. You understand that people come into this country with foreign ideas that may geometrically oppose, so you can't come in.
OK, but that's very different to talking about deportations. Deportations.
You would just send these people home. We'll get a British ICE in.
Send people home how?
We'll send a British ICE in. like we are in the States, unless you're against that.
So illegal workers then?
Well, illegal workers, absolutely.
And anyone else?
Oh, yeah, people who don't integrate well into the culture.
Okay, so this is where, how do you assess those people?
Yeah, again,
how do you go,
according
how do you go
to the
up and
definition
down
of the word.
How do you go up and down the streets
according
of Bradford?
to the definition of the word. If these ideas...
How do you know what their ideas are? These ideas are in their heads.
I really don't think you understand what the definition of this word is.
No,
again,
I understand.
If these people... Well,
Bob.
It seems like the right can very easily identify when these people don't uphold British values, but when a party actually comes out there and say they'll do it, you have an issue with it.
You're going to go up and down the streets of Bradford and go door to door and ask people what they think of Britain, and if they don't give an answer which, according to whoever is restored Britain, is favourable,
like I said, you enact self-deportation methods. When they don't adhere to those, you have a British ICE to deport people.
Can you not see where I'm coming from, Bob? That we need to be very clear about this, because otherwise we're on a slippery...
I don't see why a right-winger has a problem with this.
We're on a slippery slope to something quite frightening. Because,
which is?
Which is, like I said, going door to door and saying to people...
Who suggested that?
That's what I'm asking you, because I don't think anybody...
That?
Well, no, but not Charlie Downs nor you are able to answer
no one has suggested... No one suggested this hypothesis that you've posited. So of course it's not the policy of restore.
Explain to me how you prosecute a policy where people who don't integrate are being deported. It's a great sentence.
Very simple.
How?
If you have ideas that geometrically oppose the ideas of the native British people, you then begin to ban those ideas, then you enact a British ICE to deport these people if they don't adhere to the laws of the land.
You're banning and deporting people based on ideas. Ideas exist inside someone's head. Can you not see why this is so dangerous?
Practices.
I just think we've got to be absolutely clear about this. If history is taught at any lessons whatsoever...
But your sort of ideology hasn't worked.
What is my ideology that hasn't worked,
the moderate right position of just focusing on illegal forms of migration has never worked. We've accepted, you know, if you look at the last year of the Tory government, we accepted over 1 million people. Those are people that legally came here.
I'm wholly sympathetic, as I'm sure anyone listening to this who you know has ever listened to any word that's come out of my mouth, that the immigration at the level it's been has been hugely injurious.
So those 1 million people that we took in, how are we going to sort them out? Because they're already in this country.
That is what political parties need to present to potential voters, and that is what I want to know.
So if these people take practices and have in-group preference from their communities and it doesn't adhere to the laws of the land, they should go home.
So like what? So if they have in-group preferences, so if they want if they wear hijabs and fast during Ramadan and pray 5 times a day and believe, because you know, Muslims in the Ummah primarily, do they need to be deported?
Well, of course not. A private practice in a mosque is absolutely fine, but you're acting like someone praying 5 times a day is in isolation to a high-functioning religion which is violently expanding across the country.
But this is,
I mean, if you look at the mega mosque in the Lake District, where it has a 2% Muslim population, surely we have to do something about that. If you look at Watford, a church being converted into a mosque, these are things that have never happened before.
I would happily put protections on churches. I would happily also
but then aren't you, according to your own argument, then limiting the sort of freedom of expression that you're critiquing?
That wasn't my argument. My argument.
Well, you just said that you'd protect churches from being converted into mosques.
Yes.
That means that a Muslim can't rightfully buy out a church and convert it into a mosque.
Our conversation is how one prosecutes a policy of mass deportations based upon non-integration. That's my question.
For me, first of all, I've already explained it in countless detail. But of course, regardless of how painful it will be, it is necessary, so it has to happen. And we cannot have a right-wing government which capitulates this idea that this is not necessary for the sake of a broader support.
Bob, thank you ever so much for coming in. Word of warning, you're very young. You're starting out on your career. I do not want to see you blow yourself up, so just...
If that happens, it means there's a right-wing establishment that censors people.
Right. Maybe there is. But maybe it's good Ofcom, and I don't think it's particularly right-wing. But anyway, right, OK. Bob, thank you so much for coming into the studios. I appreciate our conversation. Right, guys, let me know your thoughts on everything we've been discussing. I'm going to zip off now because there's so much more to talk about. We're joined next by Myron Sentor Nathan. We'll pick up on this conversation and then talk about another mad policy coming from a Labour MP who, of course, wants to push for Britain to pay billions in slave reparations. Whatever next.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is sickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. I've had so many messages come on about that interview. I'm not going to read them out, and I'll tell you for why. Because he's young Bob. He's 17. When I was 17, I had some ideas. I had political positions. And thankfully, I lived in an era where there wasn't social media. So if I said something crazy or had a photograph of me doing something that I might later regret, it is lost in the annals of forgotten history. And I do worry when people are young and starting out in their careers that I would not wish for them in 5 years' time or 10 years' time when they suddenly think, oh, I really want a job in this big bank, to have besmirched their chances. And so I think he's very brave to come on and to want to have a conversation about this. I do think personally that it has highlighted the exact things I was trying to elucidate from Charlie Downs yesterday. We've got to be specific. We can't just say mass deportations of non-integrated people. Right, it sounds like a great statement, doesn't it? Right? I don't want people who don't like Britain, don't integrate, living in Britain. I totally agree with that. It's a very different thing actually laying out how and what and why and how you judge integration. You know, are we doing it on site? Are we going to somehow download the brains of all the minority communities? Are we going to go through all of their laptops? Are we going to scour their social media? Are we going to have to set up the SS to do this? I mean, let's be real. Let's just be real. OK, let's bring in Myron Sentor Nathan to talk initially about this. Myron, I don't know if you've seen all the sort of hoo-ha online following my interview yesterday and the interview just then. What's your reaction to the emergence of Restore Britain?
So I think your interview with Charlie was really interesting. I've got a lot of respect for Charlie, and I think he's a very intellectual and smart guy. But he said the fundamental difference between restore and reform was the idea of Britishness, and he defined Britishness as a kind of hierarchy. Like you have ancestry, then you have people like me who've been born here but don't have the ancestry, and then maybe people like my dad who came here in 1979 and was given citizenship. So you have a kind of tiered system of Britishness, and that's fine. I understand why these conversations are coming up. We live in a post-mass migration era where there's cultural insecurity, demographic insecurity. So the concept of what is Britishness is something we've got to grapple with, and he's put forward that kind of spectrum. That's what I believe he's saying. But my point is this: Restore Britain, if you're going to define your foundational philosophy of Britishness on that, you need to have policies which reflect and highlight that. Now, what would those policies look like? I mean, does that mean that somebody who's on tier 1 of Britishness would get access to social housing ahead of someone like me or my dad? Are we creating that kind of system? And if you don't have those policies, then why are you defining Britishness in this way? It's just pure rhetoric that has no actual bearing on what you're going to do for the country. And then what's the difference then between Restore Britain and Reform? And so this is where I'm getting confused between what Charlie's saying. I also think, is Charlie at odds with Rupert Lowe? Because Rupert Lowe doesn't seem to be saying these kind of things, at least not in the same way that Charlie seems to be putting that forward. So I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on here between the two parties and what is the fundamental difference.
You and me both. I still don't understand because, like you said, this is either a case of this is just rhetoric. And that being the case, if it is just rhetoric, mood music and vibes, that it just sounds faster and further than Farage, but actually fundamentally the policies are not going to differ, then why have two competing entities politically? You're just snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, aren't you? But if there is a huge fundamental difference, radically based upon whatever this, the concept of Britishness, what does that look like? Because I can see a world in which something like this, once untethered, can very quickly career out of control. Now, I am not saying that I disagree with the fundamental starting point. If we have ghettoized, balkanized communities, and in an ideal world, the greatest thing would be to turn back the clock and stop that from have happened. But we don't have that ability to time travel, so we've got to deal with the situation we've got. And like I said, when I hear mass deportations put in the same sentence as ethnicity or identity, I start going, oh, 1935, oh, Idi Amin, how is that prosecuted? That's what I want to know. How is this prosecuted? Because if you're talking about people's ideas and their attitudes, they're locked inside people's heads. And frankly speaking, if we're going to be brutally honest, some of the people with the most injurious, anti-British, divisive, disruptive attitudes in this country are the white middle classes. A lot of the people on those Gaza marches and banging on about colonialism and reparations and you name it are the white British middle classes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was Ben Habib, like I said, another person I respect. I respect Rupert Lowe quite highly as well for what he's done in Parliament. But what we have is that I think we have a class of people who are very sick of the political expediency that's been going on with the Tory party, Boris Johnson and the like. Totally understand that. And so the solution to political expediency is political idealism. And so what happens is you have this very kind of puritanical, principled, kind of a non-compromising vision of what Britain should look like, and what Restore Britain represents is that kind of conviction. And you might say, wow, that's fantastic. But look, we live in a first past the post system with like 60-odd million people in the electorate who are gonna vote. And if you're going to pursue that situation, you're going to be political toast. If you come out with this kind of idea of Britishness, a tiered spectrum of Britishness with policies to match it, you're not going to go anywhere on the doorstep. Your iPhone might be blowing up with likes and retweets, but on the doorstep, it's not going to pass. And as a result, this is why we see Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, they're great people, great intellectuals, great patriots. But Nigel Farage is in a different political universe compared to them when it comes to campaigning and starting up a party, gaining governmentalising, and actually taking the country in a way that can actually save it from the brink of disaster.
I want to read a couple of messages that have just come in because they highlight, again, my concerns and my confusion. So one is from Mark saying, regarding Restore Britain and their deportation policy, try reading the 100-page policy document. 2 million illegals deported. Well, that isn't different from what Reform say. They want to deport illegals. Those covering up groomers, etc. OK, well, if you've covered up a crime, you've then partaken in a crime yourself, foreign criminals deported. And then it says, imposing their culture upon wider society. What does that mean? Well, are we going to throw someone in prison or put them in a mass deportation plane because they put some Ramadan lights up? Oh, Myron, we've run out of time, my darling. I want to talk to you more about this, so we're going to have to come back together at some point and continue this conversation because I don't think it's going anywhere, and it definitely needs to be had. Myron Central Nathan, thank you ever so much for joining me, guys. Let's chill out now, shall we? All of this is a bit gloomy, isn't it? But it's okay, because just after the break, it's Weird Hour with Paul Cox.
for UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Excited. That's it. We've done the serious stuff. We've had big, deep conversations. We've all got het up about opinions and what we think. And if we're going to have civil war and what's racist, we've done that. We've done it. It's time to relax. And I've been looking forward to this all week because my favourite iteration of Weird Hour is us.
Yes, this is the original.
We invented Weird Hour.
Original. We did.
I did something on my train journey the other day.
What was it, Alex?
I made you a present.
You made me a present?
I made you a present.
Oh, my
And you're
goodness.
the only person in the world who will have this. I went on a T-shirt design shop, didn't I? Oh, wait till you unleash this. The T-shirt itself's worth about £4.99, but to get it printed in time for today, I had to pay about 25 quid.
Oh, my God.
Weird Hour official merch. Look, you've got a 3-fingered gin and tonic, mystery meat in a can.
Oh, Alex. I know that fits me as well. That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love this. Thank you so much. I'm genuinely really sort of taken aback by that.
Well, this is because I want to sort of twist your arm to sort of just continue in Weird Hour with me forever
absolutely.
until we die.
Yeah, I would love to do it. Wherever we do it, I think it'd just be fun because you and I could make a really, really fun show for all our...
Should we get some sort of like... Because Joe Rogan is in some sort of weird hunting lodge surrounded by like wood and possibly guns.
Yeah, let's go to Texas, Alex.
We've already discussed, Weird Hour in the New Forest. They love like
ace, wouldn't it?
Killing things, shooting things.
It would be amazing. I'm up for it wherever it is. I just think it's so much fun.
It is the best.
Well, you and I talk about lots of serious political stuff, and right now the country's a bin fire. And this hour every week is just fun. Do you know what, dear listener? The producer prepares about 6 stories. I read them all every week, but we never touch them. And it's my
what I
favourite
love the
thing.
most is they try something. So I've got a great one for Weird Hour. Yeah, I've got a great one for Weird Hour. I've got this, and I'm like, I don't know why you bother. In fact, you know what? The very first Us Weird Hour began because he hadn't bothered. He'd been down the pub all day, so he hadn't put any stories in there.
That's exactly why it happened.
And that's why it happened.
And we were off air as well for a moment, weren't we? We thought we had a power cut. We maybe even had a power cut. And it just created a vibe where we just went with it.
Yeah. And that's what we do ever since.
In hundreds of years, they'll talk about that moment.
I think they will. I think they're going to document it as one of the most important things that happens in the UK independent media landscape.
Yeah, independent media landscape. That's what we're in.
That's what we're in. Well, I think we're dependent media if we're sort of dependent on Rupert Murdoch.
You do some mainstream stuff, don't you? I've seen you appear on...
This is mainstream, is it not? What are you saying about Talk? That we're
No, I mean, but you can... you can get on the BBC. I've done local radio in the BBC. That's about as far as I let me in. Every time I go on there, they go, please don't mention anything else you do. Thank you very much.
No, I've done quite a few. I always quite like doing Politics Live because I've sat in for years now, since like first time I did Politics Live would have been like 2019. It's about 6 years. I've sat in the same seat every single time.
That's on the far right as we look at it,
Yeah. Although now I kind of feel like, given everything going on in politics, I don't even know what far right is anymore. It's gone so far right, it's a dot.
Yeah, this week has really opened my eyes because you and I would consider ourselves probably in a similar political persuasion. And with Restore coming in this week, it's kind of opened up another door that perhaps didn't realise was there. And there's a whole bunch of people behind there that are quite critical of probably people like you and I who haven't gone far enough.
You're mincing your words a bit there, son. I know. Oh no, this is
I think I've got a tick.
I want that one to come back out. I love it. I've had such hate, and they're not very creative in their hate. The main accusations are affairs, which is just, that's just sort of textbook misogyny. A woman says something or likes that she must be sleeping with someone. Is that? No. And then the other one is that women shouldn't vote.
No. Well, they should. Just for clarity. I think they should, yeah.
Although YouTube put out some polling the other day of what the Parliament would look like if it was just women voting, and it is ghoulish.
Yes,
I've seen stuff like that. It's basically a Green Party.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, there are a lot of women who can't be trusted with the vote, but that's life, isn't it?
Well, it depends on which way you think of it. There aren't that many right-wing women, naturally right-wing women. It seems to be they sort of. I don't know if it's performative or otherwise. I don't know if it's something to do with emotions or something of that nature, but they seem to lean left because it's seen as more caring, I guess.
Yeah, no, and also I think women naturally, like biologically, they're like herd instinct creatures, you know. They sort of are the ones who hang around with the mud huts and the fireplaces and all the kids crawling about, stirring their cauldrons while the men are banished off into the wilderness to stab a lion solo.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of stuff I do in my spare time, Alex, as you're aware. But what I would say is that the Greens... they're not protecting women at all.
No.
Labour are not protecting. They can't identify one, and anyone can be one. The far left seem to denigrate women at every level. I don't understand any woman voting for the Greens because.
But then that's most of their voters are like, this is what I'm talking about. Oh God, I've become a misogynist.
Yeah, it's great, actually.
I know.
Yeah,
it is quite fun, just trying to emphasise. I remember speaking to my mate Niall Gardner, who used to work for Margaret Thatcher, and we went out for dinner one day, and I was like,
I've worked with Niall. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I love Niall. Niall's great.
Yeah.
Did you know Niall's actually half Japanese?
No, but
Isn't
now
it
you
wild?
say it. Now you say it.
All of a sudden, you look at he's sort of quite petite, moon-faced with very vertical hair, and you're like, that makes sense now. But when he first told me, I was like, I did not know this about. I
sat between a discussion between him and Matt Stadlin quite recently. Do you know Matt Stadlin at all?
Yeah, I do know him.
And that was really entertaining.
Was it over there in that place we don't talk about?
We don't talk about it.
Don't talk about
it was near there, yeah. And that was fun. I mean, I was supposed to be involved in the debate, but I decided just to watch because they genuinely hate each other.
Get a few blows of the
I was just like, okay, I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm just going to watch like everybody else.
Yeah, it sounds
but
like
Niall's a great guy. I really like him.
Niall is great. He's very sort of quiet and very sort of, not meek, but then he comes out with like a bam, like a sort of torpedo comment, and like, whoa. I remember saying to him, because I was like, oh, what was Thatcher like? And he was like, oh, she'd have loved you. I was like, really? Because I always got the impression that she found sort of like, silly little girls like me intolerable. I just kind of always thought that she preferred the company of like men.
I think she was quite alpha. There was a masculine element about Thatcher, but I think she must. I mean, so really fascinating. Who just wouldn't do it now if there was a woman in number 10. But they used to, I remember watching videos of her and her family, her making dinner for her husband Dennis and the children.
Dennis Thatcher was a legend. Can we talk a bit about Dennis Thatcher?
Here we go.
There's not enough Dennis Thatchers in the world.
No, and he's not here anymore, I assume.
No, that's why there's not enough.
But he really did take a back seat, didn't he? He really did take a back seat.
Was it him who was like doing weird things abroad? I don't know. He's dead. I can't really libel him.
Let's just say he was.
But I quite liked. He was just sort of like he reminded us of that sort of era of man like Prince Philip, just like massively inappropriate, rude to their wife, but would do anything for them, would love them to the ends of the earth.
Yeah,
I love those people.
I can't imagine being married to Margaret Thatcher. Whether she was a woman or a man, just that personality type would be terrifying, wouldn't it? Because she's not messing around at any point. You never sort of. I mean, she could be quite funny, very occasionally.
Maybe behind the scenes she was lovely and a hoot. See, this is the thing. I kind of got the impression that she would have no truck with me. That she'd be, stupid girl. But no, but Niall said that she would like me, and I don't know, maybe Niall's just being polite.
Niall must have been. I don't know how old Niall is, because he must have been
ageless.
Because he must have been very young when he was advising Thatcher, because she was in power until 92.
No, but I think it was when she had her office after being Prime Minister, because they get these like bundles of cash every month once she's been Prime Minister to run an office. And I don't know what you do with it, but you just have Niall Gardner making your tea or something. I'm sure it's more serious than that, because Niall's a hugely overqualified man of incredible academic ability, but...
top guy. Not weird enough for this, though.
I tell you who's got the best deal on earth, and that's Liz Truss.
Yeah, she 49 days.
Yeah.
You can claim, I don't think it's a salary, I think you claim 115 grand a year. So you put in, it's essentially
I think you get an office budget. I think you get like staff and office.
Right.
You get
security.
You get security.
Have you interviewed
chauffeurs.
her?
I went to inauguration with Liz Truss, and we got into this sort of massive Land Rover, all a sort of like armed guards.
Did you go to Donald Trump's inauguration?
Yeah, and we drove across the runway to the aeroplane. All the other people getting on by that tube thing, and we're like, in some sort of cool car, and then like walk up from the tarmac, and I'm like, this is so amazing. Like, 49 29 days and you get this for life.
I don't know if they'll change it, but that's the rules, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're Prime Minister for a day, you're a Prime Minister, aren't you? As simple as that.
I mean, that'd be the way to do it. Push for a leadership contest, become Prime Minister, do a week and just go, nah, don't like it anymore.
I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but I would have loved to have seen her enact some of those economic policies.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of her stuff was good. You know, it's just like almost advanced for its time. A woman in a hurry.
What it did show, I think, was that the Blob were just not ready for change. I do not welcome
the Blob
change.
were literally sitting there, poised, waiting, ready to destroy.
And they did. That's what they did. It was Blob before country. That's what it was at that point. I mean, and everything's been blamed on her since. Oh, do you not remember Truss? And you think how many scandals there have been for Labour now? Every single week. Every single wink there is a...
Every single wink?
Wink.
Every single wink.
I'm glad I said wink accidentally.
Yeah. That's a new tick coming out. Like, you go right this way.
I haven't even got any ticks. But she, by comparison, it was nowhere near as impactful as any of the other stuff that's gone on. Just this week with Labour, with this whole, you know, attacking journalists. And...
I know, that's so wild. Coming up, like, you're doing dodgy dossiers, researching actual journalists. Then all this corruption stuff around the Chagos Islands. It's just literally, they don't...
Some Chagosians have gone back, haven't they?
They have, I love that. They've like basically occupied Chagos.
They all went to Croydon, didn't they, originally? So a lot of the Chagosians, they were basically sent to Croydon. That's not fair. Imagine being near the Maldives.
Yeah, you've gone from the equivalent of the Maldives down Croydon. It's not really fair, is it? That must breach international human rights. But I mean, how have they gone back? Have they just like sort of, because aren't they sort of digging the foundations for a church and restoring the churchyard and build? It's just like
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, stolen land is. What is it? No one's illegal on
no one's illegal on
land.
stolen land.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a double nonsense as well, isn't it?
I don't even understand it. The more I think about it, the more confusing it gets.
Well, I assume all land's been stolen from someone at some point.
Yeah. I had a funny thought the other night, but I couldn't sleep. As I did, I wasn't thinking about my terrain this time, but I was thinking about it because I live on an old Roman road, and I actually genuinely started thinking, I wonder how many layers of skeletons there are beneath my house, because there must be skeletons everywhere.
Yeah, that road will probably be something like several metres higher now than it was when it was first built.
But if you think like humanity, because I love listening to all that ancient apocalypse stuff and how old it is, they've just found something, haven't they, down Spain or something, some sort of some relic, some artefact of the past, which proves that things are really old. Or
do you listen to things before you go to sleep? I listen to YouTube before I go to sleep every single night. And I have to. It can't be politics because I'll tune in. I want to tune out. So I like some of these kind of sleep stories where they tell you all about what it was like to live in London in 1700 or whatever it was. Anything really. It used to be true crime. I used to fall asleep to murder every single night.
Oh, there was this one that I kept listening to about some kids in Ireland or Northern Ireland who had tried to like kill a little boy on a train track. Really grim. But for some reason, it was my perfect somnivation. The minute I put it on, and they were like, the murder of little Billy O'Baggins, and I was like, I don't know what it was.
Billy O'Baggins.
It was just like, I don't know, it just like activated
calming,
the sleep mechanism.
Child murder.
Normally I listen to Joe Rogan, and the problem is it just gets too interesting, and then I can actually do the whole 3.5 hours. I'm like, I was supposed to be asleep by now.
Yeah, I try and... if it's something that I like that, I do like Joe Rogan, they'll listen to something I've never heard before, so that I already kind of know it, so I don't need to invest in it.
Yeah.
I want to go to sleep.
The thing is, if you don't... The thing is, you've got to be able to invest enough that you switch off all the other tabs of your mind.
Exactly. So have you ever tried doing it without YouTube or whatever you listen to now? I every now and again, like, it's just not possible for me to listen to something before I go to sleep, and it's weird.
My brother's he listens to this thing called like deep red noise or something.
Yeah.
Which is basically just like...
Not for me, that. I've tried it. I've heard white noise, brown noise I've heard.
What's that? I don't want to know
what brown noise. Well,
that sounds a bit wrong.
It's just frequencies, that's all it is.
Brown noise is like a night after the tandoori. You're just like, that's the brown noise going on there.
Some people listen to like monks chanting.
I could probably do some monk chants. That'd be quite nice, actually.
I think maybe... But I just like history.
I like history.
Well,
are we like literally the same human being?
I think we might be.
I'm beginning to worry that we need to do some DNA tests.
Yeah,
we might be
brother
related.
And sister.
Yeah, it might not be
strange?
good. Yeah, I'd like that. That'd be weird.
That would make weird. I mean, that would have to add something else on the T-shirt. That would make weird hour especially weird.
That'd be amazing.
But I just love the idea. I don't know what it is. Since I was a kid, I'd like to listen to something to go to sleep to.
Yeah. My brother's wife, because she's a big fan of listening for sleeping, and she got me this amazing sleep mask for Christmas, which is like a sort of full Zorro bandana, but you charge it, and it's got built-in little speakers that you can connect to your phone via Bluetooth, but because they don't go in the ear, you can actually lie on your side. So if you're somewhere where you can't have the phone like blaring out, you can instead like put it's such a good mask.
Do you use it?
I haven't charged it yet, but no, because I'm always at home so far.
Yes,
but
you don't need to worry about it because it's just playing. Your phone's playing.
I've packed it today because I'm having a sleepover at Dean's house.
Are you?
I am. Do you know what we're going to do? We're going to drink a bottle of champagne and watch back episodes of The Gladiators.
As in the original Gladiators with Jet and all that.
Yeah. Well, he told me there are like American gladiators, Australian gladiators. I want all the international.
We've got no producer.
He don't care. Well, this is literally what Dean does. This is why Weird Hour just looks after itself.
He's very comfortable with Weird Hour.
I know.
I'll see you in an hour.
It's like a caretaker programme. Everyone's just, no one cares. They're all just sitting in there in the gallery doing their own thing, Googling. Who knows what they're thinking, what they're getting up to. But they, like, I said
they're staring at us now.
I said to the bosses the other day, like, is Weird Hour okay? And it's like, we haven't listened to it yet. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's too late. It's gone out now.
It's gone now.
Dear boss, this is fun, boss. This is what people like this. We've got weirdos out there.
People love Weird Hour, and Weird Hour needs to be retained at any cost.
I think so. I think...
I've got a story for you. So I've now started, when I go home to my weird village, deliberately harvesting things that I can tell you, nuggets of fun, because I know my neighbours will listen as well. And I actually wrote things down and sent them to Dean, saying, I've got to talk to Paul about this. Updates on all the Weird Hours. So Afro Shell watched our programme back, loved the fact that she was referenced as Afro Shell and the fact that she's not black. Kenny and Ken, they were watching it now.
Hello, guys.
Anyway, hi
That's
team.
Fantastic. We should keep talking about these characters as well.
Oh, it's so good. So Kenny and Ken were saying to me the other day about another neighbour. He said, well, she's a woman of the verge.
What's a woman of the verge?
That's what I asked. What is a woman of the verge? Apparently, a woman of the verge is someone who goes and picks up roadkill and knows how to prepare it. And he was then explaining how she was describing how you get a big piece of Cotswold stone and whack it over the head of a muntjac deer. And I'm like, I love my neighbours.
That will only be something in the countryside. There'll be people listening in London now thinking that's cruel. That's just survival in Wiltshire.
Would you be a man of the verge?
No, I've never killed anything that's bigger than about.
But if you saw someone dead, if there was a sort of like a wheezing,
there's like bylaw rules, isn't there? If you hit it, you're not allowed to take it, but the person who comes behind you is allowed. I mean, I don't know how true any of this. It's kind of folklore, isn't it? So if you run it over, I can pick it up in my car and we can go and have champagne and deer with Dean.
Yeah, because that's interesting, isn't it? Because the French love doing this. When you go to France, they like literally, there'll be something dead on the side of the road and you can see them all sort of passively aggressively accelerating towards it, and then, you know, their cars park and they all run towards it like, oh, we're people of the verge. I just want to know.
People of the verge sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I look like women of the verge.
People of the verge.
I think it's brilliant. I want to know if other people are verge people. Like, what have you picked up that's been dead on the side of the road?
Oh
and
man,
cooked?
have you ever seen something that's not been picked up? It stinks.
I've not really gone and poked about with
sometimes if they're there for
offerings.
ages. There used to be this dead badger, like it was in the village I lived in. There was this dead badger that seemed to be there for ages. We walked down to the social club and it was just there. It was a monument to the, and it stunk. This thing absolutely stunk. So you've got to get in there quick.
You got to go. Would you know, a badger? I mean, why we don't eat those because they're full of TB, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe, but
apparently.
Badger and chips. Okay,
did you ever? Do you know, I have had up in Alnwick in Northumberland, there's a butcher's, I don't know if it still does, but periodically it would sell squirrel pate.
Squirrel pate?
Yeah. I can't imagine there's much meat on there. What's the weirdest meat you've eaten? We always get it's on your T-shirt, weird meat. It's a common thing.
Is that what it says?
Oh my God, it's like the jelly. It's the one in the can.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
The chunks of human pet food. You see? I know.
It's so funny.
You love it, don't
I really
you?
love this, by the way.
What's the weirdest meat you've eaten?
I don't... See, I'm not that adventurous with food. I know you probably are by comparison to me. But I think I think something like venison's probably, or rabbit. I had rabbit once.
That is so normcore.
Yeah, so it is well within the norm sphere, isn't it?
Oh, man, I've done it all. I've done python, kangaroo, zebra, alligator, crocodile, all the different witchetty grubs. I've done like locusts and crickets, a scorpion.
Wow. I might have had kangaroo meat once.
And a giant rat.
And a giant rat? Just on a stick?
Yes!
Really?
Yes!
Rat on a stick, please.
Yeah, because in Ghana they call it bushmeat, and there are these giant rats called grass cutters, and you get people standing at people of the verge, standing at the side of the road with one of these. They're like this big, and they look a bit like Roland Rat, kind of cute looking. They're really big, and then they just sort of flatten them out like that, and then they barbecue them.
You're not squeamish at all, then?
No, I love offal, especially. As you know, we've had this conversation.
Yeah, I know you do. But a rat on a stick literally looks like a rat on a stick. You know, when you have a beef burger and chips, it doesn't look like a cow.
I'm not going to say I ordered it every night, but I had to try it at some point.
Right,
I had to give it a go.
And they skinned it, right? It
was a bit like gammon, weirdly, like a ham hock. It's sort of very pink meat and sort of slightly salty. I only gave it a go. I didn't, Ebola and all that. I was like, I wasn't going to fully invest.
No, but you had a bite.
I did have a bite. Yeah, so I've added it to my list.
Wow.
Guys, we've got to take a break. Dean's back, apparently. Where were you, Dean? What were you doing? Where were you? You went to get a drink for 20 minutes. Well, he's watching the football. You see, he's gone down Talk Sport, that end of the newsroom. This is what Dean's like, people.
Oh, it's outrageous.
We love him. Right, don't go anywhere. Three-fingered gin and tonic. Back after this.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, welcome back. Someone's message going, Janet Street Porter is a verge lady. How do we know?
We don't know, do we?
What roadkill has she been harvesting? That's what I want to know.
She doesn't need to be, does she? Where is she now? Does she still do, like, loose women?
Down that verge.
Yeah, of course she's on it, naturally.
She's there with her, like, litter picker-uppers and a big black bin bag, and it's just, like, sweeping the roadsides for carcasses. Going to be on, like, Celebrity MasterChef.
I think she'd be all right for a few quid. She might not need to.
Maybe she just enjoys it.
Yeah,
maybe, I mean,
all the verge.
There used to be someone who watched and messaged who was a taxidermist.
Right, yes.
It's a great art form.
Yeah, I mean, often in sort of small villages in the countryside, there'll be a museum to taxidermy. I've been in a couple. It's all kind of slightly odd. I mean, right in our ballpark, to be fair. But you'll go in and there'll be like a you know, a stoat playing cricket.
See, it's those ones I like, interactive ones, like, you know, especially with like mice back in the day. It's like, oh, let's put in a little outfit and give it a tiny golf club. Yeah. It's like, yeah, who wants that?
Who does not want that?
In Austria, though, I went to the Tyrolean Mountains where they're doing all the, in theory, it's Milan and Cortina. That's just over the road from the Austrian border, the Winter Olympics. And yeah, in Austria, you cross that border and all of a sudden everywhere you go is wood panels and like death.
Really?
Death trophies. Yeah.
Wood panels?
Yeah, like ski chalet type wood panel buildings, but just an inordinate amount of stuffed creatures everywhere you look. They love it.
Dude.
They absolutely love it.
We've got to do these trips as well.
I know, we've got to
How big's the budget for Weird Hour?
Yeah, so now we've got to do the taxidermy of Austria. That's a Weird Hour show in itself. And obviously the robots of Milton Keynes.
I wonder if any of our listeners got taxidermy at home.
Yeah, can you make us some for Weird Hour?
I was just going to ask them to describe it. Do you make us a stoat playing cricket?
Yeah, I want a little, a sort of a mouse like jumping out of a tin of spam. That'd be quite good.
A rat-eating tripe.
Afro Shell sounds like the 90s left field track Afro Left. I thought, I know that name from somewhere.
It's Afro Shell.
It's just Afro Shell. It does sound like a name of someone.
Can't she just send you a WhatsApp?
Yeah, it's Afro Shell actually sending me a message. I love that. But like, when you hear the name Afro Shell, it just sounds like it.
Sounds exotic to me.
When I say this in the pub, people were like, "Yeah, why are you called Afro Shell again?" Like people have just accepted it.
So, but she's not got an afro.
No,
frizzy hair like mine, or curly hair?
Blonde.
Just
straight as a die.
Blonde hair.
Female, white. I know.
Called Michelle, though, I assume.
Called Michelle. Well,
yeah.
maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it's just one of those weird words.
Afro Shell.
Yeah.
For men.
What would Afro Shell be?
I don't know. An aftershave. I
can see you gearing up for that. Talking about that, I saw a video, and you know all the things that Dean has lovingly prepared.
Yeah, thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean. We're not going to bother, but we are going to play the Chinese robot video.
Yeah, let's
have
do
a
that.
look because it's creepy.
Terrifying.
It's creepy. Oh, apparently there's no sound, but we can see it. Oh, it is. Look. So basically, these are very humanoid robots who look like they're entering Britain's Got Talent. Because let's be fair, Britain's Got Talent now. My mate Will and I were watching it, and whenever you've got all the coordinated dance groups, it's always the people from the Far East. Their timings are so exact. Yeah. You know, they get the South Korean like dance troupe. It used to be Diversity, whatever.
Are you saying that these people are actually robots?
Well, no, those are actually robots.
Those
apparently.
are they like 6 foot tall? Those.
I mean, are they? Yeah, they've got to be because no one's got hips that little. That is.
Oh, they are robots. They are definitely robots. But how big are they? See, I'm not overly comfortable with this.
If they can do all that breakdancing and stuff, I'm sorry, that is a standing army.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't even got parachutes anymore. They got these.
If they just turned, look, he's got a sword in his hand.
You can't kill them either because they're not actually alive things. I mean, that is terrible. If the Chinese are building all this stuff with our money, of course, because we're not allowed to build stuff because we've got to be net zero and pay them for it. And they're making like a whole legion of killer robots, I've decided. They're dancing, doing little stunts and somersaults now, but wait till they do that on the battlefield, like slinging out grenades.
This is such a good point, though. I think there's something slightly sinister about this. It's dark, isn't it? These are all children having fun with these killer robots as well. I mean, slander, I guess, by calling them killer robots.
They could be. I'm sorry, but you know, if they can do all of that stuff, they'll be like brilliant on a battlefield.
They've only got to have a chat with one another, and before you know it, gosh.
Yeah, look at them. I mean, they're basically just human drones, aren't they? And they're pretty nimble. So, yeah, apparently 20% of people suffer from robophobia.
Yes.
According to a robot.
Yeah, according to the AI robot that you just asked. But I'm not surprised, particularly when you see something like this. How comfortable would we be now if there were 3 of them here dancing about?
I would not like it.
No, I wouldn't like it at all.
But once upon a time, robots were cute. They were like a creature in the Jetsons, you know.
Yeah, because we grew up in the 80s and 90s where they just did sort of very minimal movements, and lights flashed. And,
did you ever watch Bertha?
Yes, of course I did.
Wasn't that the greatest?
That was a great film,
we always revert... That's what's missing from the T-shirts. 90s children's... 80s and 90s children's television.
Yeah, we could have all sorts of... Lost City of Gold. Do you remember that?
Oh, my gosh. When I was a kid, I insisted on being called Zia.
Did you?
Yeah. because I loved it. Zia and Esteban and the Golden Condor.
Yes.
I literally for a whole year went by the name of Zia Yusuf.
That show just, it really, I don't know, it was sort of, I just loved it.
It was so good.
Was it like Japanese or something created?
I don't know.
I mean,
it was sort of manga-ish, wasn't it? There was a sort of era with that sort of thing. Did you ever watch the Telebugs? This is really niche. You actually know the Telebugs. I think they only made about 6 episodes.
Yeah, I remember the Telebugs.
Yeah, they were robots who flew around trying to do all net zero stuff before their time.
Yeah, that was when net zero. Well, we didn't realise what was happening then. We were actually being encouraged into this stuff, weren't we?
Gaslit and groomed to
it seemed very innocent, didn't it? It was all about tidying up and don't use too much aerosol.
And there was that little evil robot who'd gone on called Zudo, and he'd go, Zudo, evil, okay. Yeah. And he used to just go around like this. Oh, God, I shouldn't do that, should I? Blimmin' heck. No, there was a closed fist at it. But Zudo did fly through the sky like that. And he just seemed to, like, going on, like, smashing up building sites and, like, unleashing oil spills. He's my kind of robot.
Yeah, there was another, there was Captain
Planet.
Captain Planet.
Yeah.
He's a hero. He's going to take pollution down to zero.
Back in the simple times, and all we worried about was landfill and pollution. It's just recycling then.
Now it's like Ed Miliband serenading wind farms with a banjo.
He's a funny creature, isn't he?
Let's face it, he's weird, isn't he? He's so weird. He would not be welcome on Weird Hour.
No, he's bad weird, not good weird.
Yeah, it's just odd, and it's absolutely no good for us whatsoever.
So if we were going to turn Weird Hour into a podcast, my idea is we just sort of like have weird conversation, but then we bring in the occasional guest.
Yeah, we'd have structure.
To talk about...
we'd have to have some structure.
We better not have Dean producing it then. That's out the window. But no, it'd be really good to like have people on to talk about a subject, so we have some weird chat, and then there's like, oh, here's this guy who knows all about the aliens. And then we dig into
it'd be
the
great.
aliens.
We could just get people in, and look, if you're listening tonight and you think, I'm weird, look, but... you know, within the normal sphere of weird, and you've got something interesting to talk about, and it involves you still keeping your pants on, then please do get in touch.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did ask people to talk about things they've got from The Verge, and no one said anything. All we've got is, I'm sorry, but Kung Fu mixed with breakdancing is awesome, and The Lost Cities of Gold was a classic. Well, of course it was.
It was a classic.
It was a classic. That Golden Condor was a really cool...
Majestic. I wonder what year that would have been, like 93, maybe?
No, that's 80s.
Was it?
I reckon that's 80s. Yeah. I reckon that, pushes it back.
I remember it really fondly.
Oh, me too. Do you know, I did it for my brother today. Every Shrove Tuesday, we send each other the same little YouTube video. Someone always remembers to send it to the other, which is, do you remember Maid Marian and her Merry Men?
Yeah, of course,
do you remember? It's Pancake Day. Yes, it's Pancake Day. Yes, it's Pancake Day. My brother and I, every time, just send each other that video.
That would have been... Is your brother younger or older?
Older, 16 months, yeah. So basically, I kind of think we're age equivalent, really.
Yeah, so he would have watched all the same things that we do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We still get together and watch them now. Because kids' TV now is creepy. It's not good. There was this one I was watching.
Has he got kids? Your brother got kids?
He's got kids. Now, see, I don't, but I sort of live vicariously through his, and I see what they're up to.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They're so good on computers, it scares me.
Oh, yeah, they don't know anything else.
They come to my house and they say, oh, can I borrow your phone? The next thing, I've got like 85 different apps downloaded onto all these weird things. And I'm like, what are you doing? But basically, they were watching. There's a couple of things that I've seen which unsettled me. One was something based in like an allotment. There was a man with all these vegetables. Do you know what I'm talking about? Some sort of...
A TV...
Yeah, like...
now, yeah.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, I do know. I forget what that's called, but yeah.
It's a sort of man, and there's a load of vegetables, like puppety vegetables.
My daughter watched that
and
for
what
sure.
freaks me out is the bit where it's not okay. At night time, like at the end of the show, they encourage the kids to go and put the vegetables to bed and say goodnight to them. And I don't know what it is about kids and toys, is they don't just go like night night, kiss on cheek. They get off with them. They're like literally trying to tongue out these toy vegetables. I know. It's like they're only 4 years old, but I'm like, oh, this is unsettling.
Yeah, a little bit. Some of the stuff's weird. I mean, we had some weird people involved in our children's TV, though, if we look back now.
Well, Wolf Harris.
Yeah, right.
Sums up a lot of it. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Gary Glitter.
What am I talking about being disturbed by Mr. Tumble today? No, he's fine. It's all these ones from the... Maybe that's what it is,
poor old
PTSD.
Mr. Tumble. There'll be eyes of suspicion cast upon him very regularly, I'm sure. Just because of what went before.
But you know what? Like Dick and Dom from The Bungalow, that Bungalow, were in here. They used to I don't know if they still do present over on Virgin, but I bump into them oftentimes.
Really?
Yeah, and no one casts a sort of no one Operation
No.
U trees them. They're clean as anything.
Well, they just seemed normal, didn't they? If
Yeah.
you look back at some of the characters that we're talking about, they all seemed odd.
I mean, let's be fair, sort of wiry, mullety hair, sovereign rings and a shell suit and a giant cigar was always going to be,
That sounds like Pat
red
Sharp.
flags. Pat Sharp is back
Funhouse.
doing something. I
Is he?
saw about him in the newspapers. Yeah, apparently he's off making an art attack or something again.
Doing this job.
Oh, Neil Buchanan. Not
No.
see,
Oh,
there's
right.
Dean correcting me. It's Neil Buchanan. Hold on, Pat Sharp was Funhouse, Buchanan was Art Attack.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, in my mind, they just got interchangeable then. Sorry to both gentlemen.
Yes.
The 80s merge.
But doing this job, somewhere I bumped into Pat Sharp a few years ago, and I genuinely was slightly starstruck seeing Pat Sharp. I didn't speak to him or nothing, because what do you say?
Yeah, I know. It's like at the time I got in the lift with Michelle Rue Jr. and couldn't say anything to him, just looked at him, and I was like, oh, I always wonder what I'd do if I came face to face with Sebastian Vettel, because he is the love of my life.
Is it?
Well,
Well,
not so much
maybe
anymore.
you could tell him.
Oh, someone told me he's coming back to Formula One.
Really?
Oh, I don't know if you're Formula. We probably should.
I mean,
talk about
I'm
Formula
not massively into it, but I like all sports, and F1 I can get involved in I
only-
dip in and out.
I like sport when there's a risk of death and maiming.
Really?
Yeah.
You
Well, it's
love
not really
jousting.
sport. Jousting, gladiatorial rings, bring them back.
Yeah.
That would solve a lot of problems.
You're going to watch Gladiators tonight with Dean.
I know.
Can't believe
A
that.
different type of
Wolf and
gladiators.
Jet. Yeah.
yeah. Not the one with Russell Crowe, but actual gladiators.
Yeah.
Have you been doing your research, Dean? Have you got them all teed up? His eyes all sorted. It's going to be fun.
Basically adult
Do you want to
soft
come round
play.
with us? Yes, adult soft. It is adult soft play. We've got to take a break. Oh, of course we do. I've got to get paid. Oh, wow, we got taxidermy. Oh, taxidermy pictures coming in. OK, so much to jump into. Guys, messages, please. You are part of Weird Hour. Be weird with us. 0344 499 1000 on WhatsApp. 8722 on the text. I talk before you send your message. Neil in Belfast has sent a picture of taxidermy, and it's a frog ninja set. It's so crazy. It's that actually. It just looks like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but are they actual frogs that have been
I
turned
can't wait
in
to see this.
to the Teenage Mutant? Yeah, I can't really show. I'd have to like tear up the.
No, I'll come round during the break.
Yeah, come on. You have to unplug up.
Yeah,
Anyway, he's going to show it. He's going to show it. He's going to see it, and then he'll describe it to you in detail just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So what did you make of Neil in Belfast's taxidermy four-frog ninja set, which are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they are actual frogs that have been turned into them?
Yeah, they look very impressive, and they are his. Neil, did he say?
Neil, did you make those? That's what we want to know.
Because there was like.
Can we have some?
Yeah, send us one. What were the names of them? Leonardo,
Michelangelo.
They ate pizza. That's what I remember.
Yeah, Raphael.
And
hold on, if I click on the picture, they got Donatello.
Donatello.
There you go. Yeah,
They
so
lived,
I look at their
they lived
little
in the
belts.
sewer and they ate pizza.
It was
Simple
Shredder.
times.
Was Shredder the one? Getting this out again.
Just my new little.
I feel this is like sushi bar. Very
Yes.
good. I do like it. But yeah, I mean, I think that Matt.
Yeah, producer Matt just showed us something incredible, didn't he?
A man who's used a dead rat to make a pencil case. And it's just a hollowed out rat with a
Which,
as
you
a
know.
pencil case. But the defining feature, I couldn't even watch it. There was something quite horrible about it. Is when you lift up the tail, you can sharpen your pencil in its posterior.
He also had a rabbit that had been turned into a toaster.
Oh yeah, I think I
I don't know if
quite
it's
like
stretched.
that.
I mean, we can't get Matt in here because, well, that would be weird. Well, come in, Matt. But it must have stretched it over the toaster. It must have been an actual working toaster.
Oh my gosh. So when we set up our cabin in the woods, our Joe Rogan-esque murder cabin for Weird Hour, Neil from Belfast, this is going to be our first purchase. We're going to have to crowdfund for this, selling our Weird Hour merch. But basically, or maybe Neil's going to buy it for us, he says it's a real turtle and part of it is stuffed and naturalised animals to combine mutants wonderfully. So I think it's like a hybrid, like a chimera of turtle
so it actually
and
is a
frog.
turtle. It's not a...
Yeah. It's in good condition, ideal for a cabinet of curiosities, £290 on Etsy. I mean,
It's in good condition. I don't think it is.
Does it smell?
Oh my God, Neil.
When I was in Egypt,
Is he selling it on Etsy?
I don't know, but I think Neil's just Googling taxidermy.
Oh,
for
right,
us.
okay, smashing.
Oh, do you ever do, I sometimes go on the weirdest sort of eBay journeys, especially.
I haven't been on eBay for years,
Oh, I've
actually.
got back into eBay and I've just signed up to Facebook. Don't get excited, you can't find me on there because I don't have any friends. I'm just there for the marketplace.
Yeah.
Because
So you called something out like
every now and then.
Sarah Powell.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just go on there and you just go on the marketplace and try and find...
I just sniff around what's up for sale in my local area.
Sniffing around
Yeah.
is probably very apt.
But
for
I
some of
remember
the
there
items.
was this one time that I got really into. I did actually want like it for my house, a sort of moose head, like a
Yeah, a huge moose head.
stag or something.
Yeah.
I wanted the I lived in the
why not?
Cotswolds. I wanted the Verge trophy.
I'm
I
sure
want
you
Verge
could.
meat.
You could get a badger head.
A badger would be good. But I then got into a wormhole and started looking at like actual suits of armour. I don't know why.
Really?
I thought it'd be really good to have like a
For
night.
you to wear or for you to just put in the corner of the
Just
room?
to stand, like
Wow.
bed knobs and broomsticks, where they all
Yeah.
come to life when they start.
Have you got a
marching
huge
around.
house? Because you need a big house for sort of...
I've got a relatively big house. Yeah,
So
it's
you-
not like huge. It's not sort of Lawrence Schwellen.
But you
Bowen
need
huge.
a space for big moose heads and coats of arms.
I got it's got high ceilings. I could. I don't know where I'd put my night, but I could just maybe by the front door. It rusts quite quickly. Rains a lot in my area, but it's just like I quite fancy a night.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I don't know. I then went off the idea because it's quite expensive.
Is it?
Buying a whole suit
What
of
is
armour.
it, like 10 grand?
Well, it varied. I don't know. I'm going to have to research that.
Just putting numbers out the air there.
I remember me and my friend Sid.
You've got some brilliant mates. Brilliant. Sid?
It's short for Sid Arthur. He's an Indian. So that makes
Right,
it less...
okay, so-
unexpected. An unexpected
Yeah,
Sid.
Sid Arthur is an
Sid
Indian
Arthur.
name, is it?
Yeah. But there was one
That's
time we
cool.
invented we invented all these wild games and used to get drunk together and play wild games, including one called Tarantula Flatley, and I can't even remember what that was.
Tarantula Flatley?
Yeah.
As in Michael Flatley?
Yeah.
Who did the skiddly diddly dancing?
Yeah, and I don't know whether we had to. I can't remember what it was, but there's something to do with Michael. Tarantula Flatley became a thing, and I don't remember it. But we also had this this game when we were drinking, where I think it's sort of like if you lost a competition or something or pulled the wrong thing out of the hat, you had to buy the other person something very weird off not YouTube, off eBay to the tune of 50 quid.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you manage to find anything like really weird to buy one like?
Yeah, I just bought him a vase. For no reason. We were really drunk, I don't know, just like that vase will do. But I played this game at the flea markets of Brussels when my mate came to visit, and I got him a Cold War era Russian gas mask.
Wow.
For a tenner.
That's quite interesting. It is a little weird,
Yeah.
but I think that would be quite interesting. Sort of thing, a curiosity around the home, a conversation starter.
There's a great antique shop in my town. It's so good, and they sell really affordable things. And there's this one cabinet, there's two cabinets that I'm well into. One has got all these sort of really old relics. So I got these ancient Egyptian beads, and I always sniff around there. And they got stuff like a sort of tooth of like a not a matador, minosaur, some monster, some sort of dinosaur thing, like a big fossilised tooth.
Wow.
And they've got like those mosquitoes in amber and Neolithic arrowheads. And I was like, I want all these curios for my house.
I think that's quite cool. I like that. I do like that. I mean, it's not just weird; it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can have it in cabinets, and when people come over, you can say, "Here's my amber, my saber-toothed tiger tooth."
Yeah, I've actually got I've got a shark tooth embedded in a rock. Yeah, that's a good one.
So it's embedded in a rock.
2 Neolithic rocks for making pyramids and stuff. Yeah, actually, it's making temples in Malta.
You've been everywhere. You're very well travelled.
But Malta's not that exciting, is it?
No, well,
it's EU, isn't it?
Yes, but you are very, very well travelled, aren't you?
I've been about, yeah.
So you've been all over and you've picked up little things.
I've got a lot of artefacts.
These could all be around the cabin for Weird Hour.
Oh my goodness! Oh, maybe we should just record Weird Hour from my living room, because my living room is just Weird Hour.
That would be amazing.
Have you ever played the game Room?
No, I haven't. I'm aware of it, though.
It's this interactive game where you go around some old house and it's full of sort of Victorian stuff.
Yes.
I call my my front room the Explorers Club because it's full of just weird stuff with like
just collected.
Yeah. And you go around in this place and you're sort of looking for interactive clues, and it's always like open the globe and the model of the ship and, you know, the barometer on the wall, and that is basically what my front room looks like.
I've got a globe wine counter thing.
I've got one.
And a barometer my granddad gave me.
Yeah.
He's not with us anymore.
Oh, I love the fact we've got our decor
You might be
sorted.
watching. I don't know what they're capable of doing.
Exactly. I don't know what they're capable of. Oh my gosh, that was another really weird thought I had the other day as part of my stream of consciousness for how many Skelly Bobs deep are we if, you know, humans have been around for like, I don't know, 20,000 years. I don't know how long they've been around. How many Skelly Bobs deep are we was thought number one. Then thought number two was when people go like, oh yeah, you know, I spoke to my husband and the lights flickered. I'm like, if they're like knocking about and can watch us, do they see me can they see me?
Well, look.
Like, do they?
Are they just voyeurs? I think they're disgusting voyeurs.
Spiritual voyeurs.
Yeah, can you imagine passing over to the other side and someone going?
But when you see these hauntings and like poltergeists and stuff, like knocking things about in the house,
they're just like, grumpy ghosts, aren't they?
Yeah, but that means that they must be able to choose when they turn up and do stuff. So if they wanted to, they could literally be ghosting around while you're having a shower, going, "All right." Do you know what? That's what.
Yeah.
How do you know if they're like voyeurs?
Well, you don't, do you? And they must be voyeurs. Why would they watch you shower? What's the advantage? Imagine being dead for 10,000 years.
And you come back just to move like a saucepan.
Just move. Yeah, I mean that's the
so rubbish.
Oh, I just turn the light on and off, and then I'll go and watch her have a shower.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Do other stuff.
There's got to be other stuff to do.
This is what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, you know, 18,000 years of Skelly Bobs, and you know,
Skelly Bobs is great as well.
Yeah, you've got to think about these things.
Yeah, so I wonder. I see what you mean. I mean, there must be
bones everywhere. Like bones. There must be layers of bones, layers upon layers of bones. Isn't oil just bones, basically? Like rotted bones and stuff.
Isn't oil? Yeah, it's a mixture of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why they're called fossil fuels. Yes. Fossilised stuff. We got to take a break, apparently.
Oh, good. We on air?
Apparently so. Not for long now. Come back.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Guys, you're sending us some good material. So first of all, this is from Annie B.
Annie B?
Annie B's got a game she used to play, and we're going to play it.
Okay.
Alex, we used to play a game called Guess Who's Dead?
Guess Who's Dead?
Guess Who's Dead? And basically, the rules of the game is we took it in turns to guess which dead person you were thinking about.
Just anybody random, like.
I love it. And as a little aside, I work as a postie in the Scottish Highlands and collected 2 stag's heads yesterday, which the local taxidermist was sending to Japan.
Wow.
Great fact there.
That was a fascinating.
Someone sent a picture of, like, it's their room and it's got Talk on the screen, and they photographed it during the advert break. This is how intensely they're watching Weird Hour. They don't miss a minute. That photograph says we'll be back soon. And it's got all of the optional Edward the Peacock, Dave the Gazelle, and Neville the Ram. 3 lots of dead things on his wall.
Wow.
Do you want to play Guess Who's Dead?
Yeah, but what's weird is you're just going to think of a dead person, and it could be like your Uncle Sid.
Oh, it's got to be a dead person you will know. I'm assuming. I'm trying to think of. I can't think of anyone dead now.
There's loads. Honestly, there's loads of dead people.
There's loads of dead people. I don't want to, like, accidentally get someone who's not dead and then mess it up. Like Dick Van Dyke. People always think he's dead. He ain't dead.
He's not. He's like, was he 100? 101?
I don't know. He's old.
He is well old.
We could do Guess Who's Not Dead. He's been on the programme. Because every now and then you think of people and you're like, are they dead or not? And you've got to Google it.
Oh, yeah. It's usually you're sat in the pub or something with a friend and you'll mention something and I'll go, well, he's clearly been, like David Hasselhoff or something. You'll be like, he's been dead for years, isn't he? But he's not, is he? He's not dead at all. Or like Hulk Hogan or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Hasselhoff isn't dead.
No.
No, I got him mixed up with that guy with the mean face who was actually quite nice. Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
He is dead.
I actually think on some level, Richard Tice, if you squinted and saw him through frosted glass, might look like Patrick Swayze.
I think it's a compliment.
Yeah.
I think that is a compliment. Patrick Swayze was a very good-looking man. I mean, Richard Tice is a good-looking man.
I mean, yeah, so I think, you know, both, let's say, you know, objectively, conventionally handsome, perhaps.
Yes, got, you know, sort of symmetrical face.
Although, you know, considering...
Tall. He's quite tall, isn't he?
Yeah, Ticey's tall.
Yeah. They all are, really, aren't they?
So, OK, let's play Guess Who's Dead.
Yeah, go on then. So am I going to guess who you're thinking of?
OK, I'm thinking of someone dead.
And I've got to try and guess who... By the way, this is mental. Where do I start? OK, can I say something like, did they die this century?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the rules of the game.
Well, we're going to make the rules up, and Annie B has not told us the rules.
I don't know when they... I don't know. Oh, it could be this century. Music, yes. Yeah.
John Lennon.
No, that'd be last century, surely.
Yeah, it would be 1980, yeah.
But this one I'm not clear. No, this century. Yeah, died this century.
Music.
In fact, hold on, if I think about this and where I was when it happened, 2009.
Ooh, 2000, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. Guess who's dead?
I know that because my daughter was born just after he died.
I think I accidentally killed him and a few other people.
Did you?
Because
the police
there's a few times this has happened where my mate was I was working at the BBC at the time, journalist, and my mate's like, I've got tickets to go see Michael Jackson when he comes to Britain.
Because he was on tour, his final tour.
Yeah, and I was like, he ain't gonna go. And so I've got the ticket. I've literally got the tickets, and I was like, I ain't gonna do it. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I just don't think he's, I don't think he's going to survive it. I think he's going to die.
You're like the Derek
And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, out there doing his rehearsals, there's videos of it. And I said, oh no, I just think he's going to die. Anyway, literally come in the next day, he's dead. And I did it to Amy Winehouse and I did it to Princess Diana. That's 3.
I would say...
So I've speculated death and then basically a day to 2 days later they've died.
Really... I think with Princess Diana, I don't know her, Princess Diana, that is quite spooky.
The night before, me and my friend Bronwyn, when I was 14, were talking about Princess Diana. And you know, like at the time, there's all this sort of like the royal family aren't happy with her.
It's August the 31st.
The paranoia, is she going to be bumped off or whatever? And I think we were having that conversation. I said, yeah, I think she's going to die. And then we woke up the next morning because it's a sleepover and, oh, maybe Dean and I will kill someone tonight. Maybe that's like what's going to happen.
Well, the gladiator's still alive. Jet's alive, isn't she? Wolf.
Don't do it! No, don't start killing the gladiators. If tomorrow one of them's
the gladiators
dead,
and you're the one with the power, not me. I'm just guessing names.
No, but I can't partake in this game because, you know, people...
So you foresaw... I mean, Amy Winehouse, I guess...
That was an easy one. That was a sort of solid pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, bless her.
Oh, this is getting into my scary Obits game. This Obits game that I was telling you about.
And this game is what? You just...
I thought that was us on Weird Hour.
No, I can't remember this.
No, basically, in newsrooms, people always sort of advance make obituaries. Yeah,
it was us,
and so you have to guess who's...
No, that was us.
So someone's just messaged going, Hulk Hogan is dead. He died in 2025.
Yes, I'm aware of that. That's what that was kind of my point at the time.
Art Claire in Buckley, North Wales, our biggest fan, needs a Weird Hour T-shirt.
OK. All you got to do is send us a cheque for £20,000.
Yeah. Buy us a studio, fill it with taxidermy, and the T-shirt's all yours. Yeah.
Welcome to North Wales, aren't we?
Yeah.
Why not? We have build the fan base. We need them all to write to the. We've got Claire, great start. Annie B, maybe.
I think Annie B is definitely with Weird Hour now.
We've definitely got people all over the place. They need to consistently write into the powers that be at Talk.
I don't know. I'm really excited about the idea of decorating our studio because we have to get that map that you scratch off as well with all the Weird Hour locations.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the decor is clearly. Forget production values. We don't have them anyway.
No, but we do need real people involved because the thing about weird is it's great when it's. Celebrities are weird anyway, particularly you know, the Z-listers.
What I foresee in time for the next general election, whenever that's going to be, is all the political leaders will be like, we better go and do our Weird Hour interview.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
It'll be like the thing to go on, you know, they have the sort of, you know, big debates on the BBC and then they all have their special slot on, you know, the sit-down interview with Andrew Neil, all those things. And it's like, wow, it's time for the Weird Hour interview. And it would just be like the Mumsnet interview. It will be... Yeah.
Well, we could ask them all sorts of weird stuff. But they would fall over there, wouldn't they? They would. I mean, they spend a lot of people in politics. I wouldn't say like Reform, because Reform seems to be filled with quite regular people. This sounds like a Reform broadcast now, but what I'm saying is, from what I've, you know, when you meet people that just look like